Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. Hi, Jim. Yeah, I just sent you out. I noticed that. Thank you so much. We owe you like 10. Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Thanks, bye.
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. If any member has reason to believe this meeting is being held in violation of this act, they should state so at this time. We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mrs. Werner,
Here.
Mr. Venuto,
Here.
Ms. Hessel,
Yes.
thank you. Mr. Ledwin, Mrs. Notch.
Yes.
Ms. Sheehan,
Yes.
Mr. Walsh, Mr. Zexer,
Here.
Mr. Cataldo.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the minutes of May 25th.
Second. I'll make the motion.
Make the motion. Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mrs. Notch and a second by Ms. Hessel. Ms. Hessel?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Mrs. Notch?
Yes.
Ms. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Yes.
Mr. Cataldo?
Yes.
Mr. Venuto?
Yes.
Mrs. Werner?
Abstain.
Thank you.
Okay, we need a motion to approve the resolution for Scott and Sarah Fisher, 1141 Pennsylvania Avenue.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Ms. Sheehan motions, Mr. Venuto seconds.
Yes.
I'm sorry? Oh, Ms. Hessel? Ms. Hessel?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Notch?
Yes.
Ms. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Yes.
Mr. Cataldo?
Yes.
Mr. Venuto?
Yes.
Mrs. Werner?
Abstain.
Thank you.
And a motion to approve the resolution for Nancy Tiburcio, 1260 Cape May Avenue.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Okay, who seconded? I'm sorry, Mrs. Not, Mr. Venuto?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer? Thank you. Ms. Sheehan motions, Mr. Zexer seconds. Ms. Hessel?
Yes.
Thank you. Mrs. Notch?
Yes.
Ms. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Yes.
Mr. Cataldo?
Yes.
Mr. Venuto?
Yes.
Mrs. Werner?
Abstain.
Thank you.
Okay, our first application tonight is for Michael Wood.
Board members, my name is Chris Valence, and I represent Michael Wood, who and his family recently purchased the former Godmother's Restaurant on Broadway, corner of Broadway, West Perry. They've changed the restaurant style over. It's now a fine dining restaurant, and from what I understand, very successful and very good. The proposal here tonight is a relatively straightforward and simple matter. The idea is to create emergency ingress-egress from the third floor to the second floor where none currently exists. That's what's driving this application. Along with that work that they're doing, it was decided at that time to show other work being done within the building and outside the building, which wouldn't necessarily come here for approval, but it's on the plan, so we have to discuss it. Interior-wise, there is a third floor kind of all-purpose room within the eaves, which is really a TV room, from what I understand. And that's the third floor. That's where the emergency access will come from. And then on the second floor, the Woods will be converting a one-bedroom apartment to a two-bedroom just by modifying the walls. And a bathroom, I think, is going on the third floor, which will provide a second bathroom. And what you'll hear is primarily the family intends to use it. It is not a bunkhouse. It is not for employees. It is currently will be used for the family. In the future, if it's rented, it's an existing apartment, non-conforming. The relief requested is going to be a D variance for floor area ratio. A floor area ratio increases by 0.1% from 7.35 to 0.45. Craig has it in his report. I should give you the right number. Mr. King has it. From 0.735 to 0.745. The increase in the FAR is solely because of the little dormer that's created for the stairway to leave the third floor. That's it. There's no other, and maybe 10 square feet. There's no other new expansion. There's no other expansion of the building. There's no other expansion of the footprint. It's really to allow that stair to come from the third floor to the second floor. That's an exterior stair as well. That's a 5-vote variance. That's a D variance. Mr. King will give you those instructions. Other variances that Craig has pointed out is the lot size. That's an existing condition. Nothing we can do about that. Parking, I suspect that the interior increase from one bedroom to two would drive under the RSIS would pick up one more parking space, I assume, Craig?
Yes.
There's no parking on site. There's none proposed. There is a large driveway, everybody knows. That really is used for the dumpster, for trash in and out, and for deliveries. So that really can't be allocated for a parking space. Craig mentions the bike rack. Bike rack is fine. That's easily done. So that'd be a parking space for a variance for one parking space. And the number of signs. There's an additional sign proposed on the facade on West Perry. Only one sign is permitted on a commercial establishment within a residential zone. We are asking for that second sign just so from West Perry you can see it and know that it's there. It's a very soft sign. It's cursive writing identifying the new name, which is Grana, with just an underlit spot. It's just paint on wood. It's nothing spectacular, nothing backlit or anything like that. It's very subdued. With that, I'll introduce the two witnesses I have tonight. Mr. Wood, Mike Wood, and Joe Porter is our architect. Joe submitted the plan for your review and your approval, hopefully. Would I have both of them sworn?
Also going to swear in our board engineer. Raise your right hands. Do each of you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Mike, introduce yourself to the board, and if you would, give them the background of how you guys, family, came to the property, you bought it, and what you've done with it, and intend to do with it, without me firing back and forth questions.
Yes, my name is Michael Wood. At first, I'd mentioned my family and I, we've been coming down to Cape May since the early 1980s as kids. Got married down here at the Hotel Alcott, got engaged down here, ate at Daniels right across the street from where Grana is currently. We purchased the building about 16 months ago, I'm sure you're familiar, it was called Godmother's. Previously, the building had been kind of let to go run down a bit. It was looking very tired. The restaurant itself was actually shut down for almost 3 years prior to us purchasing the building. We first started working on the downstairs. We leased out the restaurant to an aspiring restaurant owner, Carl Messick, who was at Peter Shields. And first, I'd say that's really, it's a great feeling that we have. He was an amazing chef, and he had this dream to own a restaurant. And we were happy to give him that opportunity through Grana, and I think he's come a long way in realizing that dream that he has had. Grana so far has been great for the community. It has won many accolades in a very young history. On TripAdvisor, it's the #1 rated restaurant now in Cape May. And it's actually, if you look at the entire Jersey Shore area on TripAdvisor, it's the #1 restaurant, which I know he's proud of and I'm proud of for him. And also just won Best of Jersey Shore Fine Dining as well recently. So far, we started with, like I said, downstairs and the outside of the building. So we put on new landscaping, stucco, painted the building, some lighting, new gutters. We replaced some broken window panes. And now we'd like to match the improvements we made to the outside front of the building to the back of the building and the upstairs apartment, namely to make it safer. And I'll tell you some of the changes we'd like to make and have the layout work for my family. So we're asking permission for, there's 2 floors in the apartment, a lower floor and an upper floor. The upper floor is quite small, and we need a place to kind of send the kids away. And, you know, I view it, and I know it's been viewed before, as a bit of a fire hazard. Very steep stairs going up to this small area. We'd like to make that a TV room, put a bathroom in. You know, my concerns, obviously, if, you know, something were to go wrong and the kids couldn't get down or we couldn't get down. It's very steep stairs. So we're looking to do a small dormer where there are currently windows, so you can access the top of an existing balcony and have stairs go downstairs.
That's facing West Perry?
Yes. Go downstairs to that lower level on the outside. And you know, I'd also add, when I first met with Joe, you know, the #1 thing I told him was, let's try to do what we need with the smallest amount of changes. So, you know, I think we tried to accomplish that through the changes in the plans that you're seeing. On the lower floor, essentially what we're looking to do is just put a door in what's currently a hallway with a bathroom and a small room to add some privacy to that room. And then there's a very, there's a screened-in patio outside that's in very poor condition. Rain's coming in. I actually have some pictures I can share with you. And we're looking to just put windows in place of the screens that are there. Again, we've gotten Historic Preservation Committee approval for all of these changes that I'm mentioning. And, you know, that room is dilapidated currently. It's an eyesore. It doesn't match the building from the back of the streets, you know, that you can see.
And that's proposed as a 3-season room, not heated or cooled.
Correct, yes. And then on the outside, the only changes that we're doing there is the sign, as you'd mentioned, and we're reworking, the fence needs to be replaced. It's in very poor condition, and we're just looking to slightly reduce. We don't need the size that we have currently for the dumpster, oversized, and that way we can hide a lot of the industrial stuff that goes along with the restaurant. So for people using the apartment, they don't have to walk by and look at the HVAC condensers and things like that are, you know, pretty ugly to look at.
So the primary focus was driving the application really is what you came to me for was the stair, ingress, egress.
That's correct.
And as you pointed out, and Mr. Porter will confirm, the other, I guess, large part of this renovation from the exterior standpoint is just the windows in the screened-in porch. If you have a picture of that, you circulate that to the board, they can see the condition that it's in now and its need for improvement.
Yes.
And from what I can tell, Mike, while you're looking, the back of the building is different colors than the front of the building?
Yes, the stucco was painted. Because this has so much rot on the wood currently, we didn't decide to touch on that until we were able to remediate that.
You're going to make the building one cohesive unit?
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah,
Before we hand things around, I got to mark them.
sure.
identify them.
And collectively, I think there's 4 or 5, Rich, and they could be applicants, 1 is fine.
Okay, I'll do A 1 through 5, or 6, or however, how many are there?
1, 2,
We'll check
3,
with the board
4,
engineer.
5. There's,
5.
I'm sorry, there's 6. I'm going to mark them all.
A 1 through 6.
Yep.
Thank you.
Those are pictures of that screened-in area on the back.
A4, A5, A6.
Mike, there's no proposed changes to the overall footprint of the building?
No,
And there's no, you're not expanding the size or creating any rooms or additional exterior space or
Correct.
interior space?
that's correct.
And in fact, what you told me was, the new chef has made the restaurant more intimate by reducing the number of tables overall by about 20.
Yes, when we purchased this, had a mercantile license for 86 seats. He's using 68. He just wants to make it a very upscale, fine dining experience. And
Can you say those numbers again?
he has 68 seats currently in the restaurant.
What was the mercantile?
86 when we purchased.
And you're going to keep working with the change and work your way around the building and hopefully have it all done as
We
soon as
want to,
possible?
yeah, we want to make it look great, and we want to spend some time here.
Now, the exterior stairs that go from the second floor to the first floor, the outside ones, they're going to be replaced, rebuilt, they need,
Yes,
Upgrading.
yes, with wood, yes.
as well as the deck, the landing between the second and what's going to be the third, also needs.
Well, yeah, so there's currently no stairs. We're going to add these stairs, as Mr. Porter says. The stairs currently going from the ground level to the lower level of the apartment, I mean, it's all rotted, all the balustrades are falling off. It's real hazardous.
Have you spoken to any of your neighbors, or do you think this application or what's approved, those stairs, for instance, or the screen porch being converted with windows, is going to have an impact or an effect?
It should have no impact. I mean, it should really make it a lot more beautiful for them to look at from what it currently is. I mean, now it looks like a very rundown, ugly site.
And your goal, the family's goal, is to make that a lot better.
Yeah.
Joe,
Yes,
you prepared as an architect, you're a licensed professional architect in New Jersey,
that's correct.
and you prepared the plans that the board has seen and hopefully will approve.
Yes.
You have appeared before this board before?
Oh, yes. Yes, I have many times.
And you are familiar with the city of Cape May zoning ordinance.
Yes, I am.
Would you just confirm and tell the board what you have put on your plan and what is proposed for the building from an architectural standpoint?
Okay. Well, my biggest concern, obviously, was the egress from the third floor, the attic floor, which is now going to be called a TV room, but it's a multi-purpose room, basically. And my concern was that there was no legal egress from that thing other than going through the floor down the steep stairs to the floor below. And if there was a fire down there, there would be no way to get out of that area. So my alternative was there was a shed dormer on the rear of the building, and we created the shed dormer into an A dormer so that I could get a door there into what would be the roof of that previous screen porch, which is now a porch that has windows in it.
Correct.
And from that area, I put in a ladder. Well, basically it's a ladder, but it's a stair ladder that it's on my drawing that would provide egress to the landing below, and then they could get from that roof down to the landing and then outside to the existing stairway that he's going to replace. Anyway,
Joe, your drawings, your ability to design those things come from your year of architectural experience.
oh yes.
Give us a little bit of your background in architecture so we can qualify you as an expert.
Okay. I've been doing this for 50 years, so I've had many commercial buildings I've done
So if you have an architectural license,
in New Jersey. Yes, yes, definitely, and
How long has
I'm
that been
licensed.
in effect?
Well, probably 50 years. Yeah, I'm doing this. I'm 83, so I've been doing this for a long time. I did the restaurant across the street, Sapporo.
I'm going to ask the board to accept Mr. Porter as an architect.
Yes, we will.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry. The transition, Rich, was that all right?
you got him in there now. You
Go ahead, Joe. You can just finish up with the improvements being to the building that are shown on the plans.
Yeah, I mean, what we're planning on doing, other than replacing the deteriorated parts of the building is to also create some interesting landscaping, and we'd be happy to provide a landscaping plan for you. I think on my drawings I've said to be landscaped or something like that. But we can get together and decide which kind of vegetation we want planted there, and we can provide you with a landscaping plan if you desire.
I think that's probably a good idea as a condition of the approval.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that.
The interior changes, you're making a small bedroom on the second floor where there's only one right now?
Yeah, there's only one medium-sized bedroom, and I took what is actually a very small room, which was a laundry room, and I incorporated the laundry into the small bathroom there on that floor and created a bedroom there, so that there...
But you haven't expanded the second floor at all? with
Oh,
respect to
no,
that?
there's no expansion. It's just the same room that's converted to a small bedroom, just in case they need it.
And on the third floor, we have a slight expansion, change to the FAR as a result of what?
Of that egress.
And how is that accomplished? How'd you do that?
Oh, instead of the shed dormer on that side of the building, which there is on the front side of the building, I put an A dormer so that I could get a door in there, and that would be egress to the which would be the ceiling of that previous screen porch, but it's now a deck, and then they could from there progress down on an exterior stair to the landing below.
So
and
the
then-
increase in the FAR is solely a result of that little area?
Yeah,
Right,
it's
access
probably, 8 feet by 3 feet or something like that, right? That was to be the only expansion of the actually interior of the third floor.
And the screen porch is not being expanded in any way, you're just providing...
No, just,
Hold on, let me finish. Windows where there are now screens.
that's correct.
And that will continue to be a three-season room, not...
Not heated or air-conditioned, no, it's a 3-season room, correct.
Joe, we have to justify this variance, it's a D variance, under the municipal land use law, and address the positive criteria and the negative criteria. Now, with respect to the positive criteria, you've already talked about the aesthetic enhancement and fire safety. Do you think those purposes are advanced under the municipal land use act by this application?
Yes, I do.
And tell us briefly why you believe that to be the case.
Well, I think architecturally, we've done something that meets the basic criteria of what's in the neighborhood in terms of an A dormer. There are plenty of A dormers around, in addition to shed dormers. So I think,
And the overall enhancement of the building,
it's in keeping with the neighborhood, I believe, yes.
and the fire access will help to prevent injury or death from fire, flood.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I believed when I first saw it, it was a major hazard there, because you'd have to go down through a steep stairway to a floor below, which if there was a fire, you couldn't do that. You had to have a way out, and now there's a way out.
And in light of the minimal improvements proposed, do you think the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance?
I absolutely do.
In fact, the windows on the screen room will actually provide a little more privacy, a little bit more sound attenuation.
Yes, definitely, definitely.
It's a D variance, Joe, so we have to show the special reasons that the site can accommodate the improvements being made or can continue to accommodate the improvements being made. Do you believe that to be the case? The site still can accommodate?
I do, definitely.
Thank you. Madam Chairperson, that's all we have for testimony.
Anyone from the board have any questions?
I have a question. The area we were talking about changing the screens to windows, that's nowhere next to the restaurant part itself. It would never be used as, outdoor seating or whatever.
It's on the second floor?
It's on the second floor. Restaurant's on the first floor, yeah.
That's the area they wanted. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is the only entrance to the apartment. It's separate from the restaurant downstairs.
I just have a question. You're just touching on that. How is access to this apartment now?
It's around the back of the building.
It is only in the back?
Exterior stairway.
Okay. Now, when you bought the place, was it already permitted for rental?
Yes, it was an apartment. that was
But was it permitted? Meaning, just because it was rented, was it
Title was transferred as a commercial unit and an apartment.
apartment? Okay.
The land use certificate, of land use compliance was an apartment and the commercial unit.
Right, that was my question, only because I know we have issues with the fact of being double
I wouldn't be here
use.
talking about it if it was illegal.
I don't know.
Someone, I wouldn't go.
You're also expanding a non-conforming use. Can you just give a little bit of testimony on that? feedback?
Can
I can't
explain that
hear you,
to the
Rich.
board, please?
Rich, we
more
can't
testimony
hear
on
you.
Yeah.
I said you're also, I think, expanding a non-conforming use. Can you give a little
I will be happy
testimony
to.
on
I thought I did.
Right,
I must
let
have
me just, if I could just frame that for the board.
Sure, sure.
'cause in your introduction, you mentioned the floor area ratio variance as your D variance. So this is the R2 residential district. The only residential uses that are permitted are single-family dwellings. So here you have an existing restaurant, which is a non-conforming use, with an apartment over a commercial use, which is a non-conforming use. So there's two uses on the site, they're both non-conforming, they're existing, and they're proposing to expand the upper one. I don't think there's any modifications to the restaurant, is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
That's correct.
So it's an expansion of the non-conforming apartment over the commercial use. So anything that they do there triggers the use variance. So the addition of the bedroom is really what's driving the use variance for that. So, and I'll let you, I just wanted to frame that for the board and have at it.
Joe, the only expansion of the building, of the envelope of the building, is the dormer you've created for the entrance and exit to the new stairway. Is that correct?
For the egress for the third floor. That's the only
That-
expansion of the building,
That
correct?
causes FAR to increase because it's building area. That causes the FAR to increase from the .35 number to the .45 number.
Yes.
When you testified earlier that you thought that this expansion, or this variance could be granted without substantial detriment, and with, up to the zoning ordinance, or the zone plan, zoning ordinance, and public good, do you believe that's still to be the case with this expansion of the second floor envelope, with that bump out for the stairs? Do you think that in any way would negatively impact the neighbors, negatively impact the zoning ordinance, or negatively impact the plan?
What are you saying, the expansion of the second floor, what?
I'm sorry, the third floor little bump out for the stairway.
The egress.
Do you think
Yeah.
with that, that would have a detrimental impact to the neighbors or to the zone plan and the zoning ordinance?
No, I don't.
And do you think with that, the site can still accommodate what's proposed? The lot can still accommodate what's proposed?
Definitely, yeah.
Now, you're adding a second small bedroom, you had mentioned. That doesn't involve any expansion of the envelope of the building or any bump out of the building. That's being done solely within an interior space, is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, there's no change in the floor area of the second floor. It's just that
Same square
I
footage.
converted a fairly large laundry room to a bedroom and moved the laundry into the bathroom in terms of a stacked washer and dryer, simple.
Do you think the addition of that, I guess the additional room, would have a detrimental impact or substantially impair the intent of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance, or substantially impair the public good?
I don't, no.
Do you think with that addition, the site can continue to accommodate that one additional room you've created on the second floor?
Yeah, it created from a laundry room to a bedroom, but it's a very small bedroom. It would accommodate one person, really. So.
And the square footage of that floor remains the same?
Sure, exactly the same.
Hopefully that,
I just have questions about the bedroom.
Sure.
So how many is it going to sleep, this place
Joe,
upstairs?
what are the dimensions of that new, the washroom bedroom?
I want the total sleep capacity.
Well, I
for
think
the-
it's probably maybe 8 feet by 12 feet or something like that. It's not very large, yeah.
Like how many people could sleep between the two bedrooms proposed?
The existing bedroom, probably 2 people, and that extra bedroom there, maybe 1. That would be
We were hoping
maximum.
for maybe a bunk bed in there for
Maximum,
kids or
yeah.
something like that.
Okay, my question is, if it's converted into a bedroom, did you have to change the window for egress?
No, that was already, yeah.
Okay, because
Yeah.
it sounds like it was a closet, that's why I was asking.
Yeah,
It's
no,
not,
it was,
it's a room with an
Okay.
exterior wall.
yeah.
And there's
Okay, so I guess I'm just going to...
Current a window there.
Yeah,
so it's-
because my concern is that you have no parking now, you're adding another bedroom that requires another parking space, and you're not adding in parking to it. So to me, that's where it becomes detrimental to the neighborhood, because you're going to require more parking.
And yeah, the residential site improvement standards does kick this up to another parking space requirement.
I would also add that when we're down, we're going to be eating at the restaurant every time and parking there anyway.
Well, but I'm concerned for rental, right? It becomes a rental. Now some people bring 2 cars, and you don't even have space for any cars. I mean, you do have that driveway, which would be nice if you could have said you were going to put the cars in the driveway, therefore you're creating some parking. But
Can you put one car in the driveway and leave it open for what else it needs to be used for?
We could, we'd have to move it when the schedule dictates of the garbage collection. Because they need to access it.
How
They need
often,
to
how
drive
often
it.
do they collect the garbage? Once a week?
I would
Twice?
assume, I'd have to talk to the. I
Okay,
don't-
because otherwise you could park your car there easily, yeah, overnight, and it's not a problem.
Mr. Bailenson, can I ask you a question? In your earlier testimony, or someone's earlier testimony, I heard that the restaurant was originally approved for 86 seats?
Correct.
And that is now being reduced to 68?
About 20 less seats, yes.
Okay.
Now, that's a reduction in parking,
So,
parking count.
so as part of this application, you're reducing the number of seats from what was previously existing to what there is now, 68?
Yes.
Okay.
It-
So the net.
But is that going to be a confirmed license change? Because if it's not a
that's
confirmed
gonna be
license
Confirmed
change.
through this board as
Okay,
approval of the
'cause-
site plan.
Yeah,
So-
because, I mean, if it's not confirmed, then tomorrow they could go back up to,
Yeah,
Well, that's why I'm asking
86.
for the clarification, because it was just mentioned, and there-
I don't have the permission, that was to show how well the restaurant's doing and what they're doing down there. And
Okay.
I don't have permission from the chef who leases the restaurant to make a change to that count. I don't want to do that and have him be pissed, have him be.
Okay, so that, you
I understand
explain
what
that to
you're
the
saying.
board.
Okay. The board, I hope, understand, I don't want to change the mercantile license number of permitted tables because the chef's not, the operator's not here, and I don't want to do that without his permission.
okay, so really you're not going down to 68, you're still at 86.
On the mercantile license, yes, but physically,
Okay.
there are 60.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter, because they could still throw tables in tomorrow.
I don't, my response is, I don't think the additional small bedroom is going to change the way people travel to the site, if it's ever rented. While the requirement under the RSI is an additional parking space, no question about it. From a practical standpoint, that really doesn't change how people will get to the site and how many cars they're going to bring, I don't believe.
Yeah, it is, because that's what our requirement is, that if you have 2 bedrooms,
I know, I understand it's required, and I have to ask for the variance, I understand that.
Can I speak to this for a second?
Please.
All right, first of all, it does matter what the seating's going to be, and we need to straighten that out now, because,
Seating's going to stay as the mercantile license dictates.
let me finish my thought.
Sure.
As you may know from your several appearances here, I basically take Craig's chart and put it into the resolution. You are seeking a parking variance. You just are. You have, and the requirement that's in this chart is 37 spaces. And that's calculated based on there being 68 seats. So if that number is 86, then your variance changes. So
I'll make it easy, We will remove the request for the bedroom.
Well, before you, I mean, I assume you asked for it because it was important to you. And and I understand, I told you, let me finish my thought.
Sure, I'm sorry.
So if what's approved before is 86, then that's the number that should be in this chart. And then the number of spaces will be adjusted by Craig accordingly. And it'll add 18,
add
1 every 4
4
seats. So
spaces.
it'll add 4 spaces. So your requirement would be 41, which is what it always was. You're not changing that. And you would have 41 with no spaces. The question for the board is, you need to consider the application as a whole, and you're weighing the safety benefits they've outlined by adding the stairs with whatever negative you think arises from another bedroom. But I'll point out that this bedroom is not really a truly new bedroom in the sense that they're not adding to the building and putting in a bedroom. So you're doing analysis whether a room that, people can sleep anywhere in a house, right? So if the living room was bigger, I've had 15 teenagers in one room. So, so the square footage of the place is staying the same, and the fact that the bedroom is kind of getting split, you have to weigh the real-world impact of having the same square footage, but taking a bedroom and making it into 2, that's an 8 by 12 bedroom, against the benefits of this stairs and the safety and the modernization of the building and all that. So you need to weigh everything as a whole. So if you feel that the addition, the division of this bedroom to create two bedrooms, and the RSIS adds a parking space for that. Okay, the RSIS does, but you need to apply your real-world analysis of the building's the same size. The bedroom was a bigger bedroom, and now it's two bedrooms. Does that offset the benefits of the application, which have been outlined by the professionals? And then you got to do that analysis. But what I don't want to do is sneak up on you and put this chart in there, and it says 68 when you have a restaurant that's had 86 for the last 30 years or whatever it's been.
Yeah, I understand, and I didn't want to start that discussion or legal argument tonight as to whether or not, when there's no expansion of the square footage, whether or not that is an increase which would require a variance for a parking space. But, or does that,
But it's an increase that requires a new parking space, but it's not the same as adding a 20 by 30 bedroom onto a house that is, a 20 by 30 bedroom
agree with you.
adds a space.
regardless of the size, of it, and I agree with you.
That is fundamentally different than taking an existing bedroom and cutting it in half. Even though they both add one space, they're very different things. So I'm just pointing
Look, and it's
that out.
quite forthright of the applicant to bring that before the board, because most people will do that on the weekend. And everything's on the plan, you guys see it. As Mr. King says, the space in the building doesn't change.
And the current bedroom actually has 5 beds in it, believe it or not, with 2 bunk beds and 1 on the ground. So we're not, the furniture was left there, we're not going to reuse that furniture, but we're actually using the same number of beds that was there previously, if that means anything.
But that testimony is on the record, so.
You're not using the bunk beds and the 5-bed?
Correct.
You're not.
Yes.
No, but I think he's putting that testimony on the record to say that we're going to sleep pretty much the same number of people.
Between the two, of course.
Which is 5 beds?
There's 5 beds currently there.
So that's, okay. I have one question.
I have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 5-year-old.
The requirement to have a second egress for a 3rd floor, is that a state requirement, or is that only a state requirement if it's a bedroom on the 3rd floor?
I'm not sure it's a state requirement. If anyone decides to sleep up there, definitely it would be a requirement. But in this case, it's like a TV room or an all-purpose room. But even then, I would just say that you need egress from there.
Because I am asking this, because a lot of people have 3rd floors, but not 2 forms of egress, and that's why I was asking.
Say that
A lot of
again?
people have 3rd floors, and they don't have 2 forms of egress. That's why I was asking. If it's a requirement for a bedroom or just,
Well, I consider it just a safety requirement, period. I wouldn't want to be on that 3rd floor watching TV and there's a fire on the floor below and I can't get out.
Judge,
You know?
do you know if it's required to have that on that 3rd floor? By state code or?
Only if someone sleeps there, but it's possible someone could go up there and bunk up there, as far as I know, and then it would be a state requirement. So I think it's just a plain safety requirement. That's it. It covers everything.
Yeah, and there's
Whether you're sleeping there or not sleeping there, it covers you.
And as Mike said, certainly when there's a commercial kitchen within the building.
scarce.
Yes.
I have a separate question. The signage that you want to change. I understand from the size that's there now, you'll cut that in half, put on 2 sides of the building. I also looked at your HPC approval resolution. Normally, HPC approves signage for fonts and size and lights and whatnot. I didn't see that approval in HPC. Did you?
No, that would have
show
to go back to
You'll go back to HPC
That
for that.
was, yes,
It's
that
in the
was the
design
chef who
standards.
requested this to include with our application. and-
Okay, okay, so make sure.
Okay, if there's no further questions, let's have Craig's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to summarize my March 20th, 2023 review memorandum for this application. Once again, it's located in the R2 residential district. You've heard testimony from the applicants indicating what they're proposing to do. I'll just roll right into my completeness review. There were some waivers that were requested. The general requirements for all applications, under item number 10, the resolutions from prior zoning boards, they indicated that there were none, and we did support that request for that waiver. There were 9 waiver requests from the C&D variance checklist. We did support all of those waivers for the reasons given, and they also requested site plan approval because this is a commercial site. It's affecting, the parking counts are changing, but the site is essentially built out. There's no room for any real site improvements, so they asked for a waiver from a lot of the requirements. So I supported those and did recommend deeming it complete. Summarizing the variances. So we talked about there's two variances, 2D variances that are required. One is for the expansion of the existing non-conforming use, and I sort of already explained that in one of my comments, but it's the upstairs apartment over the commercial use. Any expansion to that requires the D variance. In addition, the floor area ratio is an existing non-conforming condition, and they're increasing that from 0.735 to 0.745, where the maximum permitted in that district is, and for that use is 0.50. So those are the 2 D variances. They require affirmative votes of 5 of 7 members, just so you're aware. I'm sure Rich will go over that before you vote. And then the other C variances that I have in my report are lot size is an existing undersized lot in the zone. 7,500 square feet is the minimum required. 4,575 square foot exists. The parking count, and let me just confirm, we're not changing the mercantile license, so now we're dealing with 86 seats. Is that correct, Mr. Valenson?
Correct.
Okay. So the parking analysis that I have on page 407 has to change a little bit. Based on 86 seats, there would be 21 parking spaces required instead of 17, so there's an additional 4 that are missing there. But at the end of the day, the additional bedroom that's being added increases the parking count by 1, based on the residential site improvement standards requirements for calculating the parking. So you have a net gain of one space. All right. The signage. So we have variances for the number of signs. 1 is permitted where 2 are proposed. There's existing non-conforming signage that's on the building now that's being replaced. That non-conforming sign is 3 by 20 or 60 square feet. They're proposing 2 signs at 3 by 9, which a total of 54 square feet. So there's a slight reduction. However, they're splitting that one big sign into 2 smaller ones. So those are the variances. I'll move on to my general review comments on page 6 of 7. 1 is our standard condition that they have to comply with flood damage protection for new construction. We've asked them under item number 2 just to provide the approval signatures on the plans. We've asked under item number 3, where are we ringing?
Oh, it's his phone. No, it's his.
Okay. Anyway, item number 3, the zoning table should be revised to reflect the comments in my review memo and as the board approves this. 4, I asked for some additional setbacks to be provided, measured to the side lot lines. 5 is our review of the stormwater. So in this instance, what they're approving is not major development. So we have our standard conditions that the runoff must be directed towards the front of the lot and not abutting properties. And should these improvements create an adverse stormwater impact, they're going to be required to provide a grading and drainage plan satisfactory to the zoning board engineer. 6, we touched upon this a little bit, but I had questions with regards to the labeled bunk room on the plans. I think that's been clarified now through their testimony. If that is indeed a bedroom just for the children or whatever, that doesn't trigger an additional parking space. threshold, they would need 5 bedrooms to trigger the next parking space, so we're okay there. 7 deals with the fact that there's no off-street parking proposed. It appears there is sufficient room for bike racks, so whenever there's no parking, I always recommend bike racks, so if they could be added to the plan, we would recommend it. The existing concrete drive provides access to the trash enclosure. The applicant should identify if this driveway supports parking or deliveries. Back out access to West Perry Street is not recommended, so I know they're so typically, whenever we have these types of sites, I look at it and see if they can fit any more parking on there. In this case, I don't know that there were ever approved parking spaces there, but knowing what we all know about West Perry Street and how narrow it is and how congested it is, I was reluctant to recommend that they provide parking there because it's going to be pull in and back out parking on the West Perry Street is never a good idea. So I did not recommend that. That's, if the board has questions with regards to that or recommendations, I'll be happy to listen to it, but based on that traffic patterns and congestion there, we did not support the parking there. Number 8, we request a landscaping and vegetation plan should be provided. 9 is our standard condition that they replace the sidewalk satisfactory to the board engineer. 10 is our standard requirement that they have to post the inspection fee, and the CO is tied to the acceptance of those improvements. 11 is furnishing the performance guarantee and inspection escrows as required. 12 is compliance with the requirements of the Cape May Shade Tree Commission, Fire Department, Environmental Commission, and Public Works Department. We did receive reports from the Fire Department. They approved it with no comments dated 4/5/23. Public Works Department approved with no comments dated, where is it? Where's their date? 5/20, no. I don't see a date on theirs. Received April 12th, I'll just go with that one. And Shade Tree Commission approved with the following conditions: the pear tree to the right of the building, southern magnolia rear of the building, both need barriers for protection. Does the applicant agree to do that during construction?
Sure.
Okay. All right. 13, compliance with all other state, county, and local approvals. 14 is they abut a county right-of-way, so Cape May Planning Department Cape May County Planning Department approval is required. 15, they've gotten conceptual HPC approval. They need to go back and include the signs and anything else but that we need evidence of final HPC approval. 16 is our standard condition that they have to comply with any and all applicable affordable housing requirements. 17 is to provide an item-by-item response to the comments in this report, and 18 is our standard condition. Should the board grant approval to this, they have to revise the plans to comply with the board's approval and submit those sets for approval. So,
And we're okay with those comments? I know, I told Craig, with respect to the sidewalk is in good condition. To the extent it gets damaged during construction, of course, it will be repaired or replaced as necessary.
that's our standard condition. We've recognized that during these improvements, contractors drive on the sidewalk, break it up, so when we do our CO inspection, if there's broken sidewalk, we ask them to replace that. That's why you see that comment often.
I don't think this project's going to drive that kind of machinery, but we will do that. Couple comments. Number one, Mike tells me that the chef did apply for a new mercantile license with seating in the mid-70s, like 75. I don't have the exact number, but it is not 83. I'm sorry, I didn't tell you that before. 86, sorry. It is down into mid-70s, 74, 75, or 76. I don't know the exact number.
Would you agree to at least reduce it by 8 seats, so that would be 2 parking spaces?
Sure, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I can tell you that for a fact that it is.
All right.
Number two, I don't know how you calculate employees. There are not 18 employees. There are 10 employees at most, if that helps. Number three, we can designate the driveway for an employee to use it during working hours, which would not interfere with deliveries or trash hauling. And that would eliminate the need for that variance. If we show one space in that driveway, I really want to work with the board and try and make that work rather than leave it hanging.
Well, I was also going to suggest there is that permit parking in front of a driveway. that you could, park
Parking in front of the driveway.
in front of the driveway. Like you apply to that city for a permit to park in front of your driveway, therefore,
We'll do that and give it to an employee, that's for sure. I don't want the board to think that we're coming in with a major expansion of this building that's going to really affect the neighborhood. I don't think that's this kind of application. I really think it's relatively modest and really a good plan for KMA rather than anything that's going to be detrimental.
Craig, can I
I
ask
think you've got a
you,
really nice owner here, really nice family ownership, that it's going to be a good thing going forward, without question.
Craig, I just have a question. It says, the restaurant is non-conforming with the apartment. Did it get grandfathered in before, or did it never get approval, and they just threw it in there? How did that become, with the apartment, non-conforming?
So whenever I get an application like this, we always search our records. I've been serving this board since 1995. I could find no applications that were from 95 till now.
Okay.
I don't know how exhausting the search was from the applicant, but they indicated that they could find none.
Okay.
So I think you're dealing with something that was grandfathered in.
Yeah, I didn't know when they made it the Godmothers, if there was like, okay, we'll make it Godmothers, but we're not going to put anything on top, or they said it was going to be owner occupied. That's what I was just
I
asking.
believe in the 1980s, it changed its name. I have the old signs. As we took the signs down, there were older signs, old ship-in, and I believe it was we have pictures from back in the early 20th century.
Yeah.
It was a restaurant and ice cream store in the early 1900s.
Yeah, I'm just talking about when it was Godmothers, because I'm thinking that's when it would probably be like the apartment or something.
Yeah.
And the building's always been the same. There's always been an apartment on top of a restaurant for 80, 90 years.
Just as a side, apartments on top of commercial establishments in our master plan is not necessarily a bad thing.
I'm
No,
just saying,
it just,
this
this
is currently
this
grandfathered.
happens to be in the R2
Yeah.
zone. So typically, we encourage that.
It's surprising that that corner is the R2 zone.
That West Perry Street corridor has numerous existing non-conforming commercial uses on it. And this board has dealt with them in the past, so I think the board recognizes that we're right on the edge there, and there's a little bit of gray area where some of those existing non-conforming uses exist.
So can I just clarify what the seat count or what the space, number of seats was going to be? Because we went through a couple numbers.
I'm not sure. I
My
heard a lot
notes
of.
say 70 it's 78 seats, which reduces the parking to below what it was before the application. So now it's 19, 18, and 2 for a total of 39 is what I have. Craig can correct that, but that's, I could be wrong. Can you just check that, Craig?
Yes, so
We're going to text the chef, see if we can get the exact number for you. Hopefully, we can.
He's not busy right now?
But if the mercantile license
Usually
was
applies to
that,
me
then
pretty quickly.
they're not reducing it, right? If the mercantile license was at 78.
no, if this board approves the site plan approval with the number of seats, that's what they're going to be required to comply with.
Yeah,
So
the mercantile license has
change-
been
the
adjusted.
mercantile license will change after this.
But they had the testimonies I understand is they had 80-some, 86. or something.
86 is what the first said.
And then the new mercantile license that the chef has applied for is in the mid-70s.
Correct.
So in order to try to recapture some theoretical parking, I think all this is kind of theoretical, is to reduce to 78, that's 4 seats per spot, so that's 2 spots. So your requirement is 1 less than as it was operating previously.
Yes, we agree.
That's what I understand. Now, I just want to check with Craig on the math, because 78 is not easily divisible by 4, so I'm kind of, I think it's 19, but I'm,
19 and a half.
19 and a half.
what does that come to? Is that 19? I
20.
consider that 19, or?
I don't know. I'm hesitant to rely on my chart anymore because they said the employee count was off. What, like, how many employees do you have?
10,
10,
at most.
right.
Well, I'm not sure, see, the number at the bottom of required spaces is not really that critical, whether it's 100 or whether it's 26. The question is the change you're making going to, before and after, is it more or less parking?
I'm only offering these additional numbers to justify the one-space variance. I'm not suggesting I don't need the variance. I'm offering that to justify it, along with the permit in front of the driveway. Not to say the variance goes away, but to say I think that offers justification for a variance where we are modifying the operation to reduce the number of required seats by probably 6 or 7 total.
86 seats requires 21 and a half spaces. If they're reducing that to 78 seats, there's 19 and a half required. So they're reducing it by 2 spaces by the seat count. And they're increasing it by 1 for the apartment bedroom. So there's a net, essentially, gain of 1 parking space.
And 8 less people theoretically is less employees,
Correct.
but we're not going to mess with that number, okay. All right, so on your chart, Craig, I'm going to have 19.5. I'm going to keep the 18.
Where did you get 18 from, Craig?
That's the number of employees that they had in there.
In their license?
In the license of the former operator. Godfather license,
What did he put down for his license?
10.
Okay, I'm just verifying. So we're just not coming up with numbers.
So it's like 39.5, and it was, as operated previously, 41.5.
So it's a net down too.
That's all I
But
have. I
I-
don't need to talk this to death.
All right, so at this time, we'll open it up to anyone within 200 feet that would like to step up to the podium. Anyone beyond 200 feet? And we're closed.
Is there any discussion? If not, I'll frame a motion.
Okay. Any,
We discussed that permit parking in front of the driveway. Can we put that in that resolution?
Craig, is permit parking in front of the driveway, is it possible?
Permitted, yeah.
Permit, Stacy.
Are you okay with applying for permit
Yes,
parking?
no problem.
Okay.
It requires a permit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen was asking.
All they can do is apply for it. They're agreeing to apply for it.
And
May I
know-
ask, when you formulate the motion, that you give us the numbers for the parking? Because thank you very much.
I'll give it
To write
you
the
now.
legal notice, I need to
I'm not
know.
going to do it as part of the motion, but the numbers right now are
Okay.
restaurant seats 78 for a
Okay.
total of 19.5 spots.
Okay,
Employees 18 for 18 spots.
okay, thank you.
Apartment 2, total 39.5, and the testimony
Thank you.
is that it was 41.5.
Could we at least recognize that the applicant has suggested that the 18 employees is no longer 18 employees, but 10? Just
It's on the record.
on the record, so there's an acknowledgement of
You
that?
said it, it's on the record.
Thank you very much.
Craig, where did you say you got the 68 seats from?
That's what he currently has, and it's on his website.
That's what was in the
Oh, on his
application. I based my seating analysis on the application. so
Okay, I didn't know if you got it from the
There was,
Mercantile.
we were changing on the fly here tonight.
If there's no other discussion, I'll try to put together a motion. Now, the standards are going to apply are a little complicated in theory. There's regular variances, which are the balancing ones, the positive versus the negatives and the impact on the zoning plan and zoning ordinance. And the positive they primarily relied upon is the aesthetic improvement of a dilapidated area of the building. You've seen the photos, as well as adding a staircase that improves fire safety. The testimony is they don't perceive any negative impact on the zone plan or zoning ordinance. Then they have a D variance. A D variance arises from the fact that there's a dormer to accommodate the stairs. That creates a very modest increase in the floor area ratio. They need to show that the property can accommodate that increase in floor area ratio, and the property is operated for a while accommodating that floor area ratio. So whether this dormer is an impact that's substantial is up to you. And then the third one is a expansion of a non-conforming use, and the expansion is taking that one bedroom and making it into 2, and that adds the parking, but then they've attempted to offset that by reducing the number of seats. which brings the parking analysis down, and you have to weigh all of those things, applying the D standard, which is, in this instance, similar. The three are similar. It's the same stuff, the same positive criteria of adding the stairs and the safety, and you have to weigh that against whatever negative you see from the other things we've talked about. The vote, we're going to do it all in one vote. That vote requires 5 approvals, 5 yeses, and if there's 3 noes, the project is rejected. So if you're going to vote, please give your reasons for why you're voting, particularly if you're voting in opposition, because there's been no opposition from the public. So if you're going to vote no, I have to take my no from the things that you say. And that's the motion I'd recommend being made. How you vote is up to you, obviously, but make the vote in the affirmative. So the motion is to approve variances 1 through 5 on page 4 of the engineer's report with the modifications to the parking, as I just said, subject to the conditions outlined in the engineer's report, including the landscaping plan, the shade tree commission items, that they'll apply in good faith for a parking permit on the driveway.
Bike rack. Bike rack.
And the bike rack that I think is in our engineer's conditions, but I'm incorporating the conditions in the engineer's report anyway. Okay, so those are that's the motion I recommend being made, but how you vote is up to you. Thanks.
Okay. Will somebody make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Mrs. Notch motions, Mr. Venuto seconds. Ms. Hessel?
Yes.
Mrs. Notch?
Yes.
Ms. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Yes.
Mr. Cataldo?
Yes.
Mr. Venuto?
Yes.
Mrs. Werner?
Yes, and I
Thank you all very much.
for doing a very
Nice to
nice
see
job.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Gotta make a reservation apparently, right?
I'm going there now.
Thank you, Mr. King.
I'm going to get sued. Crush fingers. Next application is Celatega, 1521 Beach Avenue.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, board members. Ron Gelzunas appearing on behalf of Celatega LLC, and that is Jim and Teresa Nipper to my left. Property, of course, is 1521 Beach Avenue. This property currently consists of a single-family home, which is orientated towards Brooklyn Avenue, and a detached 2-car garage with a 1-bedroom apartment on top. The proposal this evening is to demolish the detached garage and reconstruct it so that it will be attached and become part of the principal structure. This will eliminate a non-conforming use of having 2 separate dwellings on a single property. And this will result in a reduction of lot coverage from a current 65.2% to a compliant 45%. To my right is Mr. John Cornick from K2 Consulting Engineers. He will be our expert this evening and will provide some more of the technical detail and describe the application. If we could have everyone sworn in, please.
Yeah, our board engineer remains under oath. Are your clients going to testify as well?
Yes.
Okay, could each of you please raise your hand? Do all of you Swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Okay. John,
I know my mic
if you'd just place your credentials on the record briefly.
Sure. My name is John Kornick, Kornick. I'm a licensed professional engineer and licensed professional planner within the state of New Jersey, both licenses in good standing. I think I was here before this board about a year and a half ago, 2 years, but I presented before this board, the planning board, numerous times, and have an educational degree from West Virginia University, a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture and Environmental Protection, and then a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from Drexel University. Presented, again, before this board and many other boards throughout the state of New
Have
Jersey.
you represented boards or municipalities for engineering?
I have not.
Okay.
Try to stay out of that side.
All right.
We'll
Madam
accept-
Chairman, you
accept that
recognized? Thank you.
testimony.
Thank you.
John, why don't you take us through current conditions on the site and the proposal?
Sure. So as Mr. Galzunas indicated, this is an application to take an existing non-conforming scenario and bring it into conformity to the RS Residential Seasonal District. And again, this property is also located in your historic preservation zone. So it is Block 1774, lots 15 and 16, also known as 1521 Beach Avenue. The property maintains a 10,500 square foot land area, and that is a conforming land area for that zone. In addition, as indicated, the overall site has about a 65% impervious surface. That includes building and existing concrete surfaces. Our application presented and plan identified an exceedance of the 45% impervious cover. We have discussed this application, went through Mr. Hurlis's review letter, and we're able to remove some of that impervious coverage that we show on the site, more so all of it behind the existing or the proposed garage expansion in connection to the main home. We're able to remove that and then bring our impervious cover down to the 45%. So that's going to be a plan change should the board be in favor of this application. In addition, the project itself meets all floor area ratio calculations, and it also meets the parking requirements for a 6-bedroom home. That's what this conversion is going to do, or a major renovation. So that 3-story garage will have parking on the first floor. That's a 2-car garage, have an additional bedroom, and then the top floor will be a studio for the owner to utilize for her art crafts. So in general, we are here for what I feel is just an existing non-conforming setback. At this point, we're modifying this plan where we're going to move that proposed garage closer to the principal structure so that we maintain that existing 10.2 feet to that rear part, or the side property line. That's that north property line off of Brooklyn. And then that way, we're only here for an existing non-conforming rear yard setback where 25 feet is required in the zone, and we're showing an existing condition of 4.1 feet to the primary structure that's there today.
Can I just interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Can you just help me understand that? I didn't,
He's eliminated 2 of the variances that are indicated in my chart.
okay, go ahead, can you just, let's change the chart. The chart ends up in the resolution.
The chart's going to be modified. This was a discussion we had today.
That's fine, that's it.
The only thing that they're asking for now, if I'm correct, is rear yard setback. 25 feet is required, 9 feet is proposed.
4.1 to the existing building.
4.1 existing,
Right.
not to the addition.
9
New
feet.
improvements, 9 feet.
Craig, can we just clarify, because the property's on Beach Drive is the address. So to me, the rear yard would be the one that's that's by Brooklyn, right? And, but they,
He gets to choose. Our ordinance doesn't,
the applicant gets to choose. Okay, that's all I need to know.
frontage or whatever, they
Okay.
can choose which yard width.
And it's a unique property because we are a corner lot, so that's why we have.
Right, I just wanted clarification, because, what's rear and what's back, and,
Yeah. What we haven't so much chosen is that the house exists already orientated towards Brooklyn, front doors on Brooklyn. I don't believe there's any
Always has
access to the
been
beach.
since 1906.
Always has been. So it was a decision that was made a long time ago.
Correct. So again, in general, we do have a plan change, but that's so that we can eliminate some of the variance relief that we originally applied for. So as Mr. Hurlis indicated and confirmed, we're here for an existing 4.1 rear yard setback to the primary or principal structure, and in our proposed garage reconstruction, we'll maintain a 9-foot separation to that rear lot line.
So just to clarify that, John, the proposed reconstruction of the garage will be, as far as the rear yard, in the same footprint as where it is now?
Correct.
That same distance. And the 4.1 is the existing principal structure distance from the lot line?
Correct, and just to give you some orientation on the plan, I didn't do this in the beginning, but this is the plan that was presented, but we just gave it some color and an aerial, so you can see the existing conditions. So, orientation's north to the top of the page, and we're focusing on what I would call the westerly property line, the rear line. That's the demising line between the residence to the west and our property. And I'm pointing kind of to the center of the rendering. That's where the existing 4.1 setback to the existing home remains. And again, as Mr. Gelzunis indicated, we're replacing this building in kind, so the 9-foot rear yard setback is what we're proposing to the new structure.
So the two changes we're making, if you're standing on Brooklyn, John, and you're looking at the new garage, we're actually sliding it left 2 feet to be closer to the principal structure.
Correct, so that will maintain the existing 10.2 feet to the wall of the structure. And your ordinance obviously is unique where we have to take that measurement for the setback to the furthest protrusion off the wall, which would be your eave with the gutter. And the eave is 20 inches with a 4-inch gutter, so that's 2 feet. We're at 8.2 feet to that sideline, where 8 feet is the requirement, so we exceed it by 0.2 feet.
I'm sorry, so it's staying at 10?
Excuse me?
It's staying at 10?
It's staying at 10, but that's the exterior wall. But again, your ordinance requires us to take that setback to the eave and gutter. So we still, using a 20-inch eave with a 4-inch gutter, that's 2 feet, that protrudes into or towards that sideline that we were discussing, but still maintains that 8-foot setback. We're in compliance with your ordinance.
And how about that easement?
So that's the impetus of the change. We were not privy to that easement, and the survey that was provided didn't show it. So that's why we made this change today, so that we can preserve that.
Can I just back up for a second? Craig, I got a little confused on the 8 and the 10. On the chart, the rear yard is staying 4.1 and 9 feet,
4.1 is the existing condition.
right? And that's the bump out on the house,
Correct.
right? And then the 9 feet is what?
We're sliding it over and maintaining that 9 feet.
And where is the 9 feet on this survey I'm looking
So,
at?
Mr. King, that's going to the closest corner, which would be the northwest corner of the reconstructed garage,
And that's 9 feet?
9 feet.
Is this chart as you're going to build it right now?
No,
Or is this the
again,
old
that
one?
was changed with
That's the
regards
old
to this
one.
easement. We're going to revise the chart so that we show
Okay,
conformity.
so which number is changed?
Into the record because that was not part of anything that you submitted to us.
And it's nothing that we have. So,
Just explain it so that.
Okay, well, can we just do this first, though? I just want to, on this Exhibit 1, which we've been given, which number is changing on that? Is it the 9.2 number? Like, what is what numbers on this are going to be inaccurate after this?
one will be the maximum impervious coverage requirement. We will meet the maximum at 45%. So that's going to change.
Oh, that's one way as well.
47.2 to 45?
Correct, yes.
Correct.
Okay,
All of the other items are going to be consistent. The rear yard setback, as we are talking right now, is 4.1 feet. That's the variance we're asking for.
okay, and where is that on this survey?
So that's going to be, again, looking at the center of the lot.
Yep.
The 4.1 setback is from the eave of that building center.
Okay, but that number is not, that's not on here.
It's on, if you look at the overall plan.
I understand. No, I'm not being critical. I just want to make sure I find it on here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Fine.
so then the next number I just want to find on here is the 9 feet. Which number is the 9?
So 9 feet's irrelevant because the closest point is the existing principal structure at 4.1. We're just providing that testimony so that garage is going to be set back.
I understand, but you've handed us an exhibit, and it has numbers on it that are no longer going to be what you build, and that's going to be very confusing in the record. So I just want to go on here now and make a mark on the exhibit.
Is
I got it. But in terms of where the building's going to be, you're apparently moving the building from where it appears on the exhibit you've just given us. So I want to make a note on the exhibit, which number is wrong, because it says 9.2 as the distance to the side yard.
That's going to stay the same,
That's the same?
but the discussion is really about what's going on the north portion of the property.
Okay.
Where this easement discussion's coming into play.
That's going to be 8.2.
It's going to be 8.2.
So that
to
number,
E.
Mr. King, that's currently 7.3 changes to 8.2.
That's what I'm trying to, thank you, sir.
Correct, and we're eliminating that variance.
Okay, 8.2, so that one's 8.2. Got it. Got it. Okay.
Does the easement require you to be more than 8, because it's 10 now?
No. There's no identifiable easement on this. This is a common access that's been utilized for years for the properties to the west. So there's 3 properties that benefit to access to their rear portions of their,
And currently, it's at 10.3,
correct.
but you're going to be going down to,
That's going to be to the eave and the gutter, which is going to be up in the air.
but if a tall truck comes by, they could hit it, right?
Not with the elevations, it's that eave is 2 stories above, so it
Okay.
won't impact them.
So there's no filed easement. This has just been historical in nature.
None that we're aware of.
Okay. Are you going to be providing one?
We will be searching for one, and then we'll have to reconcile that for.
Okay. Because that should be a condition of approval is the,
Why? Why? are we
Why?
doing that?
to formalize it? I guess, I don't know. I'll defer to you on this.
Well, I mean, we're, that.
I always like to clean up
That
those
could be a
matters.
horrible mess if that's a condition. I want to make sure that needs.
Well, yeah, because you have 1, 2, 3 parties involved in a,
What's the zoning decision that we're making that relates to
None.
the easement? That's what I don't understand.
none.
None.
We've eliminated that variance.
Yeah, I
We're
don't-
leaving the building at 10.2.
I don't think we know enough about this easement to
I
make that a
rescind
condition.
my recommendation. How's that?
And, yeah, I would be very, to make that a condition, they could get totally jammed up on that, because I don't know what these people think of the easement. I don't know if there is an easement. It sounds like an easement by prescription or an easement by, I don't know what it is.
Sounds like to me.
And that is a hot mess, but as I understand the zoning, what they're agreeing is they're going to make it the same, they're going to have a complying this is the 8-foot, is this the 8-foot one?
Correct.
The complying 8-foot side yard, and the eave is going to be sticking out a little bit.
The eve is at
Eve is
8.2.
8 foot.
The face of the structure is 10.2, where it's currently
Does this eve extend into this alleged easement thing?
2 stories.
at the
At
two-story
the
mark.
2-story mark. So that address machine's a very good question, so I don't think we should deal with this easement. If there's an easement there or there's not an easement there, I don't think it would alter the approval we're given. So why make that part of this approval? I don't
I
understand.
agree. I mean, we've done this to not disturb that area in any way and leave it as it is.
So whatever that turns out to be, if it is an easement, it's okay. If it's not, it wouldn't change what we're doing. So just leave that for you guys to deal with. Okay.
Hey, John, I didn't want to interfere in your presentation, so if you just want to.
I think
you
we've
were?
got the project described fairly well.
Okay.
I mean, we can go into the variance testimony and run through that, whether it's a C1 variance or a C2. We have a hardship in this case where the existing condition is something that can't be cured unless we physically pick this house up, move it 25 feet, and then we all of a sudden create variance requests for front yard setbacks. So I find that this particular setback is a C1, but we can certainly talk about it in the C2 context if we want to go through it in that manner. So, again, we're here for a C2 variance, rear yard setback where 25 feet is required. An existing non-conforming condition of 4.1 feet is what we're experiencing. And that's in that center bump out of the existing structure. Essentially has been here since 1906, and that's where we are. So, with that said, in my opinion, utilizing the municipal land use law and the purposes of zoning, I find that 3 of these purposes are certainly advanced, one being to promote a desirable visual environment. So we're taking, again, a historic structure. We have historic preservation approval, and we're just modifying it to bring it into 1 structure, not 2. and we're taking a non-conforming use and bringing that in compliance with the zone. Obviously, we're here promoting health, safety, and general welfare, so when we do this modification, it will certainly meet your code for floodplain or floodplain management. So we'll bring that over to the engineer to show him how we comply with that. The first floor is a garage, so that's not a habitable space per se, and that is permitted in the floodplain, but that second story where the habitation can occur, that will certainly be well above the base flood elevation and meet your code. And then third is to promote the conservation of historic sites and districts, and that's what we're doing here. And we're also providing more open space. So obviously, the city's sensitive to stormwater management, sensitive to impervious coverage, and because of the ordinance, we're able to take that impervious cover that's currently concrete surfaces, bring that into a permeable pavement scenario, which the city allows for a 50% bonus. So we're going to come in, take all that concrete out, and then modify the site so we're in compliance with your impervious coverage requirements. With respect to the negative criteria, I don't find any negative impacts as a result of the variance relief that we are seeking here. There's no substantial change to site setbacks as a result, and in fact, the redesign reduces, again, the impervious coverage requirements here. No substantial detriment to the public good, and will not substantially impair the intent and purposes of the zone plan, or your master plan, in my professional opinion.
Okay, John, just to go over a couple of points on aesthetic improvements and those factors, more desirable visual environment, advancing the goals of zoning. In connection with reduction of the coverage is elimination of a big swath of old concrete, which is going to be replaced with a paver, permeable paver. That's a value there to the streetscape, the view, and for the character of the neighborhood.
I agree.
And this is HPC conceptual approval as well. They've looked at this and they're okay with this design.
They are.
And that advances another special reason of zoning, historic sites, character of the historic district.
Correct.
And I guess I can't say enough about the goal of land use to eliminate nonconformities.
And that's what this application is doing. Again, I believe that the setback is a existing non-conforming condition that just can't be cured. So taking a non-conforming use with that apartment above the separate or accessory garage and bringing that structure into one is definitely a benefit to the plan.
And that also plays in with the negative criteria as well, in terms of showing that there's no substantial impairment of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. In fact, you're getting closer to conformance.
That's correct.
And after doing this, after adding this addition and the reconstruction, we're still under what's permitted for floor area ratio.
We are.
So this is not even a situation where you're building out to the max, but you're still under. In fact, moving it over and shrinking it a little bit is going to reduce the floor area ratio by somewhat.
It will be minor percentage of reduction, but again, we're well below the floor area ratio for this zone.
And this structure, the silhouette of it is still within it's smaller than the existing bulk frame of the principal structure.
It is, if you're looking from the rear of the property forward or south towards the ocean or beach avenue, the footprint of this structure is within the footprint of the principal structure.
So if you're standing on beach and you're looking west, you're not even going to see this.
Correct.
And if you're on the other side of it, the house is actually bigger than it and slightly taller than it.
Correct.
So it's within that existing silhouette.
Correct.
I guess the pervious pavers as well, eliminating that concrete, improves overall drainage on the site, correct?
It does. So again, with the regrading of where the garage is going to be placed, if the board approves, we're able to take that drainage and carry it across the permeable pavers and then go into the gutter line of Brooklyn Avenue without impact to the neighboring properties.
So when you add everything up, because we talked earlier about C1, and that's because of the way the building's currently orientated, you feel that that's a hardship, which results in having to construct within that rear yard setback.
Correct.
But also under the C2 criteria, where we weigh and we balance. You went through a number of benefits, and tried to identify some detriments, but in your opinion, do the benefits substantially outweigh the detriments?
They do.
Maybe we'll hear testimony from,
Mr. Kalsunis, can we, okay,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
you complete your record, but, go ahead.
We're good.
No, complete your record, go ahead.
Oh, no, did you think I was done, is that, or?
He's done.
But that's okay, go ahead. We have an appeal after this one,
Okay.
so I'd like to,
I think
good,
we'll
we're
be,
good.
I think we'll be very quick. You're good?
We're good.
Okay.
the board has any concerns, I'm sure.
Any
they'll share
questions?
any
But
concerns.
that's a better way to approach it. Any questions, feel free to ask the applicants.
I just have a question. So with the current garage, you're going to demolish that to the ground, correct?
Yes.
Okay, because in your HPC approval, it doesn't say that you have a approval from them for demolition.
Well, it's going to be conditioned on HPC approval.
Yeah.
If they don't have what they need, they're going to have to get it. One of our conditions will be HPC approval.
Okay, because I mean, they said they had HPC approval, but it doesn't, in the HPC approval in the packet, it doesn't say that's approved for demolition. It just says renovations and additions.
Addition, yeah.
Well, it's conditional preliminary approval at this point. We still have to go
Correct.
back.
Correct.
So,
But they don't have it. Yeah.
I didn't know they let you tear down detached garages. That was neat. I don't know.
We'll find out.
Well, I thought you went already. That's the.
We did.
They got
We
conditional
did, we
approval
did, we
for-
got
for-
approval, and they knew it
But
was
did you
coming.
go there and say, I'm tearing down the
Yes.
detached garage and putting in
Yes.
addition? Okay.
Well, this is what it
for this
says
plan.
in the resolution. Any demolition or partial demolition must be specifically approved by the HPC.
Right.
And they only said project is renovations and additions. So it doesn't have approval for demolition.
You went to the HPC,
Yeah, yeah, I was there. It was
where the
mid-December.
plans, the plans were
Yeah.
submitted as part of this application, provided to the HPC,
Yes,
and they saw these
Yes.
plans
yes,
just as they're presented
Yes.
here today.
yes.
And was it clear to them, to your understanding, that this existing garage would have to be demolished in order to create that plan that was presented to them?
Yes.
Was it discussed at all verbally, the
Yes.
nature of the development, the redevelopment?
In great detail with the architect, yep.
Do you remember if there were two separate decisions made? Normally, they make a separate decision for the demolition and a separate decision for the construction.
That I do not remember two decisions being made, no. So, if you're,
You understand that even if we approve this, if you didn't get the appropriate approval for demolition, that you will not be able to do the project at the HPC approval. You understand that?
and if they don't give it to me, I can appeal that.
Oh, you can.
Yeah.
I'm not asking you that,
Yeah.
you're not losing any procedural.
No, no,
rights.
I
I'm just saying
understand.
that a condition of approval is going to be HPC approval. So if you don't have the approval for what we approve, this doesn't override that. You need to get HPC approval.
Your
Wait, hold on,
decision
can you
tonight-
answer my question
Yeah.
before, or can you answer it? I mean, you understand that.
No, I'm going to explain that no matter what happens, the decision of the zoning board tonight is usually always conditioned upon final approval by the HPC. So you have to go back to the HPC.
Good. Okay. We'll get this done eventually.
We're going to go ahead and have Craig's report.
Thank you. Summarizing my April 26, 2023 review memo, this is a project located in the RS Residential Seasonal District. You heard testimony from the applicant. They are eliminating an existing nonconforming use, which is always a good thing in the world of planning. I'm just going to roll right into the completeness review. They requested waivers from a lot of items. Items 5, 13, and 18, I did recommend be provided as a condition of approval. We need to check the building height. We also need to check the floor area ratio, and the approval signatures need to be put on there. Items 26 and 27, we supported waivers from. Item 28, I recommended be provided as a condition of approval, which is the design calculations. We have a new stormwater ordinance. However, they've indicated that they're going to comply with the lot coverage requirements, so I'm not sure whether it's applicable, but I would like to leave it for now because I haven't reviewed the plans yet. So all of the other items, 31 and 33, I supported the waivers from and did recommend deeming the application complete. Based on the modifications that they made, we're down to one variance, and that's for the rear yard setback. 25 foot is the requirement in the zone, 4.1 feet and 9 foot exist, and the proposal is 4.1 and 9 feet proposed to the new constructed improvements. So that's the only variance that you're tasked with approving tonight. General review comments, these are all very standard conditions. Did the applicant agree to all of our conditions in our report? Was that a yes?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so I'm not going to go through these. These are very standard. There's no outliers on here. I mentioned that the new stormwater management and grading requirements and the new ordinance they are required to comply with. They're meeting the parking calculation. I just asked them to update the plan notes to show that. So based on that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the public within 200 feet. One at a time. Turn on the microphone.
My name is Guy Corradino. I live at 1519 Beach Avenue.
Hold for one moment.
My name is Guy Corradino. I live at,
So 1 second, there's a lot of people, I want to go through the procedure.
okay.
So here's how it's going to work. When you come up, please state your name and then spell it slowly because I have to write it down. And then I'm going to swear you in, and then you're going to give your address and then say what you want to say. All right? So, sir, say your name.
Guy Corradino, C-O-R-R-A-D, as in Delta, I-N-O.
Sir, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. I live at 1519 Beach Avenue. And I'm here in support of the project. I think that this would be a great addition to the neighborhood and to the 4 contributing homes that are run from Brooklyn Avenue to the Columns. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Barbara Parker. That's B-A-R-B-A-R-A, Parker, P-A-R-K-E-R.
Ma'am, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Your address?
The address, I am the owner of Cape Rock Condominium. It's 1520 New Jersey Avenue, units 312 and 317.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Just like to quote from the basis for variance relief required. The adjoining property consists of a 3-story brick wall that is the back of a very large condominium building. The proposed addition will not have any negative impact on the adjoining property. We are Cape Rock condominium community of 76 units. We are not just the wall. We are the Cape Rock owners, we are the Cape May owners and taxpayers. New construction will affect approximately a dozen of our Cape Rock owners. The vertical intrusion will affect light, air, open space, and property values. The garage evidently is over 100 years old. It's deemed historical, and there's a question mark as to if it should be torn down. The HPC approval, which was of September of 2022, does not look at use, zoning requirements, height limitations, or lot coverage. The lot coverage is 47.2%, reduced from 65.2%. Under the property information, number 12, the garage apartment, it does not list that it's going to be on the 3rd floor as a studio, as an artist studio. Number 13, does your application include, and it is not checked off, construction of new structure? The elevation drawings do not provide the final building height that includes the proposed third floor. Paragraph number 5 on the report states building height dimension must be provided. This information must be provided as a condition of approval. Some years ago, the Columns at 1513 Beach Avenue applied for a variance to build a third floor on top of their freestanding building, and it was denied. I ask that you deny this variance as well. Thank you.
Can you say the name of that the address of the property you just mentioned? Is it not?
Yes, it's 1513 Beach Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Ron Tupper, 1209 Cape May Avenue. My wife and I also own 3 different units in Cape Rock.
I want to follow my pattern. So you said Ron Tupper.
That's correct.
T-P-E-R.
Like Tupperware, yeah?
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you state your address, please?
My address is 1209 Cape May Avenue, but my wife and I also own 1520 New Jersey, number 310, number 311, and number 314, all on the 3rd floor of Cape Rock. So just a few comments in addition to what Barbara shared. I would say, again, there are 75 owners there. Each one of those has a view corridor. Some of those have an ocean view corridor, and some of those look at the back of a building. The 3rd floor units, probably more of them have ocean views than not, and those ocean views are oftentimes at an angle. They are between the homes that are in front along Beach Avenue. And this proposing a 3rd floor that is, I understand, within the same building footprint, but proposing a 3rd floor on top of that building footprint then impacts the ocean view of all of those units that are there. And therefore, I believe the normal building code would be appropriate as opposed to a variance for something that is clearly detrimental to other owners in the Cape Rock community and renters as well, who would then lose their ocean view as a result of this construction.
Which variance?
So the fact that they're proposing a third floor that is less than the 25 feet from the rear yard, right? They're proposing that. I understand it's it's currently non-conforming, but adding another story to that currently non-conforming use impacts multiple owners and Cape May taxpayers. Thank you.
Joe Dussinger, Dussinger, 1520 New Jersey Avenue, condo number 202.
You should speak into the microphone.
Sir, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Can you say your address, please?
Yes. 1520 New Jersey Avenue, condo 202, Cape May, New Jersey, 08204. In the construction document, there was a statement saying that the construction would not cause any adverse or negative impacts. As I look through the documentation and look out our window today upon what is a 2-story building will be converted to a 3-story building, clearly will have negative impacts to us in terms of sight of view, beautiful ocean. We'll wake up to the sun every morning as it comes up. Beyond looking at that, there is light issues now that we're going to have a 3-story building. the sunshine through the windows into the condos will be a lot less. I'm glad to hear today that the garage, the front of the garage will continue to maintain the same distance that it is today and no less. Otherwise, we'll just keep moving the building back further and lose more and more sites. I think there are ways that we could come together. The three-story, not only is the third story a concern with views, air flows, etc. In addition, though, there'll be two porches. There's only one. Those porches also don't allow for light coming through and they do get in the way of sight of view. And in addition, today that the porch has no roof on it. In the new proposal is that there'll be two roofs over the porches, so that the porch roofs will be extending out. I don't see the 6 or 8 foot, whatever the width of the porch is. So again, we're adding more structure to in this build. Okay.
My name is Fran Marabella. My address is 1520.
Hold on, sir.
Oh,
You got to spell your name for
Oh,
me.
sorry.
Then I'll swear you in, and then you're going to give me your address, okay? So go ahead and say your name again and spell it for me.
my name is Fran Marabella, M-A-R-A-B-E-L-L-A.
Sir, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
What is your address?
My address is 1520 New Jersey Avenue, Unit 105. Okay. I guess in looking through the application, it talks about that they're going to have a vertical intrusion, which other people talked about, in the rear and side yard setbacks. As other people talked, there's 3 floors to our condos, and about a third of those units would be affected out of the 75 that are in that building. And that would, by the going up, affects light, air, and open space, and actually the view that these people have enjoyed since they purchased the home. And that view, I don't know if you ever see when the homes are advertised for sale or for rent, it has an ocean view. That is going to be detrimental to the value of the units, which would transpire down the line, all the units, not even in that area of the other 75. Also, it says there that the adjoining property is a 3-story brick wall, and there'd be no negative impact to that. Actually, the back is in the exhibit, in the application, if you look at one of the pictures, you'll see that the back wall, every unit has a window, which was alluded to earlier, that people can see out the back, and some have ocean views, some do not, and there may be diagonal views. The other thing, and it was discussed tonight, I'm not sure what we have behind us, but we did some research, and we own 5 foot behind our building. And in that 5 foot, actually there is utility poles put on our property, which actually service the people on Beach Avenue. And we could not find an easement, and I guess going by the research here, these owners, property owners, they don't have, there's no declared easement for the common access, which is behind the units. I noticed, and I don't know if the fire marshal and fire chief have looked over this proposed plan, but we have 5 foot, and there's poles in that area, and I guess the common driveway may be 10 or 12 foot. There may be some incidents where it's health and safety getting a vehicle down there because the new proposal actually has roof lines going out into that common driveway there. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Marabella, Jeanette, Marabella. I live at 1520 New Jersey Avenue, Unit 105. And I was asked by the homeowner.
Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do. Basically, I have 3 letters from homeowners who were not able to be here tonight. If I can't read them, are they allowed to be permitted? Okay, thank you.
Sorry. I'm going to explain the reason for that. It's not to be mean. It's that the attorney, even though he's not doing it, has the right to cross-examine each person that testifies, and you have the right to ask questions of his witnesses. But if you read letters, we can't ask those people questions because they're not here. So it's like the worst form of hearsay, so I can't let you do that, okay?
Okay, all right. Then basically, my husband already spoke for me and for our property. Thank you.
All right, great, thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen Haynes, Karenhaines.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, thank you.
Your address?
1520 New Jersey Avenue, Unit 102. And thank you very much for allowing me to speak tonight. I thought pictures might speak louder than words. May I share pictures with the group?
You may.
Would that be all right? I only made 4 copies, so.
Well, can you just show them to Mr. Galzunas first, and just let him see what you're doing, and then...
This is my view. I'm in Unit 102. That's my view from behind.
We'll mark that Haynes 1.
Okay. Can I just
Are they all the same, or are they 3 different pictures?
These are all the same, so I
Just hand them to Mr. Hurlis there, and he'll pass them around.
And then this is also, we've been talking about the easement. This is actually what the easement looks like.
Okay, that'll be Haynes 2. It's an easement
So,
picture. Easement picture, I guess it is?
pardon me?
It's an easement picture. It's not an easement. It's an easement.
It's what it looks like, the driveway that goes between the 2 buildings, between Cape Rock and then the garage. So I thought it would be easier to talk about what the effect is if I provided pictures from what it looks like from my unit 102, because I live directly behind the garage. I took the photos this morning, and that can be corroborated by the dreary weather we had this morning and the screens on my bedroom window, as you can see in the pictures. The window in my bedroom is 4.5 feet wide by 2 feet tall, and it's a slider. It's got a 2.25 foot opening. That's it. That's what we've got. And so photo number 1 is if I stand right in front of my window, that's what I see. Photo number 2 is just turning my camera slightly, and so I can see a little bit of greenery. I can see the front of their garage, the little porch area. Photo number 3 is if I move absolutely to the right, so I can actually see the greenery in front of the beach. I have that view. I can see the sky. Photo number 4 is when I go to the other end of the window, and I can see the sky, and further down, some greenery. And then photo number 5 is actually if I look up. Again, I can see sky. So here are the points that I want to make. If you look at the photographs, currently the lower window is below my window. The lower window on the garage is below my bedroom window. Nobody can see it, right? Nobody can see into my bedroom. The upper window has an air conditioner in it. So given that they're the only 2 windows that are there, I get some level of privacy. With the addition of the bedroom suite and the artist studio, both at a greater elevation, and all windows, there's going to be more windows, residents, guests, renters are going to be able to look into my window. So that sense of privacy is gone. And then the addition of the height, the extra floor, is going to affect my sunlight. It's going to affect the airflow coming through my unit. There's no doubt about that. And there's likely, with all of the different additions of awnings and things like that, I'm going to lose the visuals of my green space. And right now I can hear the ocean. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I don't know. I might not, because I don't know the effect that this is going to have. So when I purchased my unit in 2018, I knew there were limitations of my view and my airflow. You know, the fact there was only one window, and it was in the back of the unit. But because of the proximity to the ocean and the shotgun design of the unit, because I have windows in the front, obviously, and screens, and we have air conditioning. It's a small unit, but I got great airflow. I've got ceiling fans. You know, and I knew about the privacy because it was their garage. There's, you know, I had it there. And what view I had was still pretty. I decided to purchase the place and make the investment and make the internal upgrades on the unit. And it's really my belief that allowing this variance and allowing this structural change to move forward, it would adversely affect my value of my property and my quality of life. So I'm respectfully requesting that you reject the application. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle O'Donnell, Michellodonnell.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do. I have 2 properties on New Jersey Avenue, 1624 New Jersey Avenue, and also a unit number 325 in Cape Rock. And I am asking the board to take careful consideration in this type of application of demolitioning a garage or part of a home that is over 100 years old. I own 4 properties in Cape May, and when we look around this room and we look at all the historic preservation that we have, I don't understand how we can demolish an existing 100-plus-year-old garage and allow it to then be totally new construction and go up 3 floors to meet flood requirements. To me, as an owner and property taxpayer of 4 properties, would really like you to consider, if you vote yes on this, you're impacting what we stand for as Cape May. Thank you.
Anyone with beyond 200 feet? You come down, sir.
I'm Warren Copeland, 737 Washington Street. And coincidentally, I'm also the chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. I didn't come here tonight for this application, but for another one. But the one issue that concerns me is the discussion about demolition. This was done.
It's not in,
It's perfectly appropriate. We're allowed to hear from the HPC.
but he just said he's not here for this application. This application has to go back to the HPC for final approval. Mr. Copeland will have his say at that juncture.
Now, the HPC, any representative of the HPC can speak at a meeting. We can refer it there, and then they can come and talk about it, and we can listen to what they have to say. I don't think we can say no. I'm willing to listen otherwise, but their attorney is here. I mean, Mr. Feinberg, can you step up? Mr. Feinberg, I have no doubt that you, as the attorney for the HPC, could speak at any zoning or planning application regarding any issue pertaining to historic matters. Am I wrong about that?
Could you speak into the mic?
Sure. Sorry.
Thank you.
I apologize. Karen should have been yelling at me. I don't know what she's doing. My understanding generally is that the HPC can speak at any meeting on any application regarding matters of concern to the historic preservation. And you, as the attorney, could appear at any hearing and speak about that. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, you're correct. In fact, there's a specific section that gives the HPC the opportunity to address any application for development, which this is at any point. That's a specific duty and right which the HPC would have.
I think that's why we give them notice of applications in case they want to have a representative come here and speak. That's my understanding. So
Correct.
I think he can speak both as a member of the public, but also I think he can speak as the chairman of the HPC with his counsel here. So I think I'm going to allow it.
I completely agree.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. The only comment I was going to make is that for the Historic Preservation Commission to approve a demolition of a building that is contributing, a building that is 100 years old, would have a separate resolution. There's 9 points that clarify the need to tear down a historic building. And so what I would comment is that the zoning board should be aware and ask for and see the demolition resolution that satisfies those 9 points.
But why would you approve the...
We didn't. I'm not aware that we did. So where are the,
Well, there's
where
a
is the
resolution here
resolution?
of you approving these plans.
Let me repeat. To get it, before you can approve the plan, you have to approve a demolition.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's awfully confusing to approve the
It is
construction of a garage in a place where there's an existing garage.
It's not confusing. The issue is a contributing building requires a separate resolution. And I think the applicant should be able to provide this organization that resolution, if it exists.
Okay. I don't understand the concept of approving the construction of something before you consider the demolition of it. It sounds wasteful to me. But that's just me applying appropriate order of things and how they should occur and the good use of people's time. I don't know why you'd approve a set of plans to construct a garage or an existing garage, but no one is considered...
The approval on the plans talks about no demolition.
Okay.
Well, the resolution. So,
It just says renovations and additions. It doesn't say
Yeah, but the renovation is, okay, but the renovation
is a third floor.
There's a whole set of plans here, and I don't think it's just the third floor. I mean, it's okay, it still needs HPC approval. If they need demolition, they need it. I'm just saying it's a matter of trying to comprehend what happens before people get here. When this is approved, and what it is the reconstruction of a garage, I could have made a horrible mistake if you weren't here and would have assumed that you guys approved the elimination of a garage and the construction of a garage since you approved these plans. So
it's not
just
clear to
odd.
me that those plans are the same plans that we approved.
It says here, the plans by ARI Architect revised August 8th, 2022. Now, I will concede that these plans have a date of 10/11/22, but the 10/4/22 is bid meeting and 10/11/22 is issued for permit. So unless they, I don't know.
Well, my point rests. There's no way for me to know whether those are the plans that we approved. And I doubt it, since we didn't approve the demolition, so.
Okay. Go ahead.
I don't recall demolition being discussed. But if demolition were discussed, well, I mean, you can have all kinds of discussions, but for a demolition of that garage requires a separate resolution. And I simply state, where is it? Let's see it.
But you don't have a recollection of the hearing, whether it was discussed or whether anyone indicated it was permissible or not.
I'm not even sure why that question is relevant. You're asking me to recall a meeting from what, 2000? It's simple. Do you have the resolution? Did you complete the 9 points for the demolition of a contributing property?
You don't recall what happened. You're here to advise this board on something.
I'm advising the board to ask for the resolution for demolition.
Well, it's coming back to the board, correct? It has to go back for final approval. Let's say that the zoning board grants the variance. This application goes back to the HPC, and at that point, you'll be able to determine whether it's appropriate or not, or whether in fact permission was granted, or whatever the case may be.
Well, the point is, a statement was made that the HPC approved the demolition, and I'm simply challenging that. If that statement is correct, then this board is entitled to the resolution.
If it's approved here tonight, it goes back to HPC, and HPC on final approval says, no, you can't demolish that, then it doesn't get demolished, it doesn't get appointed to demolish the structure, correct? So the interests of the HPC are protected.
I think I'm here to simply clarify a statement. A statement was made that the demolition was approved.
But you're not answering my question. The applicant will go back to the HPC for final approval, correct?
Yes,
And at that time, you'll be able, if demolition is not approved,
yes.
you'll be able to say no, or rather the HPC board to take a vote on whether or not that's appropriate. And if it's not appropriate, he doesn't get a certificate of appropriateness to get demolition.
Yes.
And is it safe to say therefore then that the interests of the HPC are protected?
It's protected, but what does that have to do with my simply making a comment that a statement was made?
Gentlemen, at the HPC hearing, was the garage going to be in the same location or in a different location than it is now?
At that hearing, in mid-December, I would encourage us to get a copy of the recording of the meeting. It was very clear, and you asked specifically to one of the gentlemen who was seated over there, what about demolition? And they said, we looked at it, it's not contributory, it's not original to the house, there's no problem taking it down. With that, the board unanimously went ahead and approved it as is. You get a copy of the recording, you're going to hear your voice asking that to that gentleman, and you're going to hear him saying, it's no problem taking it down. Now, whether your board did not issue the paperwork, that's not my problem, but I guess it's going to be my problem, and I'll come back to the HPC on that issue and other issues as well.
Good.
And if not, then I'll appeal back to you guys, and I'll be back here until we get this thing settled. But I know for a fact that was a question raised by the board members of the HPC. Well, wait a second, can we take it down? You asked the expert who was sitting over there. He's like, no, I looked at it. It's not contributory. It's not original. It's probably barely 50 years old. There's no problem taking it down. And the board then passed it. And that's what the minutes are going to, that's what the recording will show, not your minutes.
Anything else?
Well, they do take minutes. Are the minutes posted on our website? I just envision one of the members in whatever decision they make referencing the lack of a demolition. I just want to kind of get this if we can get it resolved, I'd like to talk about, do it, and then if not, I want to get this record complete for purposes of what.
Rich, can you move the mic closer?
I'm sorry?
The mic closer to your mouth?
Okay. Did you not hear me?
It gets mumbled when it gets...
Okay. It says, here, Mr. Becker asked about the demolition of the existing garage addressed by Mr. Feinberg. It says, Mr. Carroll made a motion to grant conceptual approval conditional upon receipt of construction plans and cut sheets for the windows. So at the hearing, is it on? It says they are seeking approval to reconstruct the garage into a 3-story addition to the primary house with a similar footprint and porches and decks similar to the original house. Mr. Copeland advised that a vinyl-clad wood window was not appropriate and would not be approved, nor would a fiberglass or vinyl door. Mr. Becker asked about the demolition of the existing garage addressed by Mr. Feinberg. And then they approved it. There's a third meeting, hold on. A third meeting doesn't have any real comment. That one was very short. All right, well, that's the evidence in the record, so the board can base it on that. And what I read was what I was reading from was the minutes of the meeting that took place in November 2021. That's the one that I read substantively from, so that is in the record.
I think we'll have to do research because the latest one would have been September.
September 19, 2022.
Well, there is a September 19th, 2022.
But I thought
But
I
that
am
one
coming
is
back in
very
this-
short. Mr. Testa was recused, architect Adamson presented the project, seeking final approval following 2 former appearances for HPC and conceptual approval. The only outstanding issue was the windows. Based on availability, Mr. Adamson proposed using N. Anderson, Marvin Colby. Motion by Mr. Carroll, seconded by Ms. Wilson, carried 6-0 to grant final approval with the option of using Colby windows. That's just the minutes, though, but there's a recording that is everything. I'm just doing the best we can with the time we have, so. But I did read, there was mention by Mr. Becker of demolition in the November meeting.
And nonetheless, Mr. King, it still will go back to the HPC.
It still requires HPC
There.
approval.
As the only thing that's clear this evening is there's a little unclarity, and that the only place that can be addressed is back at the HPC, where the Nippers can go back there with the recording and make the case for demolition if that was not
I think
fact
for,
approved.
I mean, you can base your decisions on whatever you want, but I think the decision that you're making tonight is they've talked about a C1 standard, that they're limited on where to put the building because it already exists, and it's a corner lot, so the 25 feet is more problematic than would ordinarily be the case because it's a corner lot. But really, I think this is mostly a C2 variance because the negative criteria affects the C1 and the C2. So you're weighing the positive purposes of zoning indicated by their expert against the impact, whether it's substantial negative impact on the zone plan, the zoning ordinance, or the neighbors. So you're considering the benefits that they've outlined by the project versus the concerns of the impact on the nearby neighbors. And that's what you're weighing, and then you do your weighing and make your decision. I don't know that the HPC event is a critical analysis in your determination because it will be subject to HPC approval.
Can I just ask if we close to the public? Has everyone had a chance to speak? Yes. Thank you.
Public portion closed. I'd like to have Mr. Cornick respond to some of the geometric positional arguments
well,
that were made.
If he's going to testify, we got to leave the public portion open in
Okay.
case somebody wants to ask him questions.
That's fine.
Okay, but that's all. Go ahead.
So, we heard testimony, or at least public comment with regards to existing conditions, view corridors through the bedroom window of the Cape Rock ownership. And in consideration of that, our positioning of the proposed reconstruction of this garage obviously considered that an existing corridor that I discussed, looking from north to south, from the back of the property where Cape Rock is to the beach. We can certainly take this entire garage structure, bring it forward towards Brooklyn Avenue and meet the rear yard setback, and also utilize the front yard setback and be in full compliance. But we considered that, and that's why we positioned the building so that it is within the existing corridor or the view of the principal structure. So if you look at our plan, and if you look at the general orientation, again, the corner of Beach and Brooklyn, the front corner of the existing house is 25.1 feet away from that common right-of-way line of Brooklyn Avenue. Our proposed setback of the reconstruction of the garage is 25.5 feet. So when you look at that in the position of where we did this, we're trying to preserve that view for the neighboring properties, and that reiterates my testimony as respect to purposes of zoning, light, air, and open space. So we can consider positioning that building and moving it closer to Brooklyn, come into full compliance with the setback, but we're really here for a discussion on an existing condition of the west property line where we're 4.1 feet away from that. That's the worst case scenario of the existing non-conforming condition.
So, Mr. Cornick, the lot is 70 feet deep,
It is 70 feet deep.
and you have a 25-foot rear yard setback, 20-foot front yard setback.
Correct. So that gives
Leaves
you,
you 35 feet,
and our building's 31.
and our building's 31.
Correct.
So you have 35 feet of area in which you can, I guess the term
Conform.
is conform or build by right.
Correct.
But if you did that, you'd actually be coming further out towards Brooklyn and blocking an actual view corridor.
Correct.
Now, I think we have a photo that was circulated, which would actually demonstrate that. Mr. King, could I see that exhibit that was submitted by the member of the public?
Which one? Sorry, what do you need?
The photo exhibit that was submitted by the member of the public.
I asked for more information. Here you go.
I guess the question I was asking, I didn't mean to do it off the record, he was just standing there. I was asking Mr. Hurlis, it seems to me one of the issue, as I understand it, I may misunderstand this actually, I think that the issue is that you're increasing the height of the structure within the setback. So you're maintaining the rear yard setback, but you're increasing the height of the structure in the rear yard setback. So you're expanding the non-conforming structure. Am I understanding that right?
Still within the confines of the maximum building heights within the zone.
I get that, but you're increasing the height of the existing structure within the setback.
Correct.
What is the height you're increasing it? I mean, it seems like something we should know.
Mr. Cornick indicates on his plan,
Okay.
the existing height is 26.5 feet, and the proposed height is 35.5 feet.
So it's going from 26.5 to,
35.5.
so this is all, so really what this application is coming down to at this point, because this is the only variance left, is expansion of a non-conforming structure that is in a rear yard of a corner lot that requires 25 feet, but it's a corner lot, but it's a rear yard that is existing 4.1, that is existing 10.2, and now it's going to be 8 feet, and it's changing its height from 26.5 to 35.5. So it's a 9-foot increase in height within
The rear yard setback.
rear yard setback, but
What is the front yard setback?
20 feet.
20 feet.
Okay, so they would be moving it up
Yeah,
5 feet.
I don't disagree with their argument. They could slide that up and totally comply. So Mr.
But the-
Kornick's making an argument that if he were to do that, he's going to block the views of all of the units.
But I'm just not following it, I'm sorry. So if they move it up the 5 feet, you're still not going to be 25 back from the rear,
We would be. So the structure's width from front to back is 31.
wait a minute. Are you changing what is the front and the backyard again?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm just talking about structure.
I'm sorry.
The building itself, so the reconstruction of the garage from front to back, so from Brooklyn Avenue, from the front of the building,
Right.
the first portion of it, to the back is 31 feet.
From the front to the back?
That's the structure's width.
can you
Right.
just use the streets? It'd be helpful.
So Brooklyn Avenue, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our garage is fronting Brooklyn Avenue, so the garage doors are fronting Brooklyn Avenue.
Right.
If I take the front of that porch that protrudes over, cantilevers over the garage, that depth from front porch to back wall of the garage is 31 feet.
Right.
If I take that whole structure and pick it up and move it to the east towards Brooklyn, to the front yard setback, that will allow me to conform to the rear yard setback of 25 feet.
Well,
Can the garage be forward of the?
but if you move it forward, because right now it's at 25 feet, right? Because of the porch,
It's not accessory.
because of the porch, right?
I'm sorry, Ms. Sheehan, we think we lost you there on your question.
Yeah, yeah. So right now, the porch it's at, right from the setback, it's at 25 feet.
25.5 feet.
Right.
Yep.
So you still have that 5 feet, so you move it ahead 5 feet, so the porch would still be within that front, right?
It will meet the front yard setback.
Right, and that means you gain 5 feet in the back, so it's at 9 feet now, and it will be at 14 feet, but the setback's 25 feet,
Something's wrong.
No,
right?
the front yard setback isn't 25 feet, is it?
20.
20.
Right, yeah.
So 20 feet
Right.
plus 31 feet's 51. Oh, no, then I am short. We got to make it small.
You got a total of 70.
Right.
And you have a 20-foot front and a 25-foot rear, 45.
45,
Because this is still not,
45 less 70. So 25 feet, we would lose our front
no, it's 20
front porch.
The rear yard back is 25.
Sorry. We would end up blocking more views. If we come into a conforming structure.
But
apologize,
I
I'm
still not
asking
sure how it's conforming, though.
No, if we were to reconstruct the garage to conform, meaning total width and depth, and make it a 25-foot garage, which is standard for a garage depth, then we would certainly conform. We would
Okay.
redo the structure.
I'm sorry, so because it's a garage, it doesn't need that 25 feet setback, it only needs,
Now, actually, that's the difference in this application. Just so as you know, the existing garage is an accessory structure with an apartment on the second story, a non-conforming use. We talk about use. And because we're putting the causeway or breezeway, the connecting point between the principal building and the reconstructed garage, that's now one structure, one principal structure. It's an attached garage to the principal. So therefore, our setbacks have to abide by the principal bulk standards, not the.
so wouldn't that garage be required, the attached garage, be required to be at 25 feet from the property line?
It would from the rear line.
Yeah.
And then 20 feet from the front line. We would have to redesign the project so that the total depth of that, I was misspoken because of doing the math real quick. We would have to construct just a 25-foot wide or 25-foot deep garage. We'd have to come back to the board with a full-blown.
We're overcomplicating it. Let me explain it in a way, because now I understand it. So let me explain it in a way that I would understand if it was said that way to me. Right now, this garage is lined up with the house. So that is what they're using. They're saying the word view corridor. So it's in line with the house. Their point is, whether it's a garage or whether it's part of the house, they could build something closer to Brooklyn and be in conformance with the ordinance, whether that would be a 25-foot garage or a 25-foot wide addition or whatever they do. They could build it further into the front yard, all right? And that would block more of the ocean view. So what they're saying is that this is a better zoning alternative to have this structure with this height, this 35.5 height, to have that in the view corridor of the existing home, rather than a conforming structure that would have to be closer to Brooklyn to meet the rear yard, 25 feet. It pushes everything forward because it's not really a real yard.
Right, but they're making the building smaller.
The building will be smaller, but it could be the maximum height, which is what?
40 feet.
40 feet. So they could build 20 feet away from Brooklyn, up to a height of 40 feet, and attach it to the home and require no variances. And what they're saying is that this is a better zoning alternative than building a conforming one 25 feet from that line that's opposite Brooklyn and move it forward and then put a 25-foot structure of something only 20 feet from Brooklyn.
But then why are we giving them a variance for the bump out on the main structure?
Well, because it's been there for 100.
Right, but wouldn't they still require that?
Yeah, but I don't understand that.
But, I mean, they're still going to require the variance.
Well, they're going to have existing nonconformities. But
Right, okay.
What you're doing as a board is trying to find, on the weighing analysis, a better zoning alternative. Now, you may not agree with this. I'm just trying to help you understand it in a way so that what they're saying, you at least think about it right. And then if you think about it right and you weigh against them, that's okay, all right? But what they're explaining now is that in their view, this proposal is better than putting a larger structure closer to Brooklyn because that would block more views.
Right, and they would still
wouldn't
need
a
the,
variance for that.
right, but they still need the HPC approval to.
They need HPC approval. I'm not entirely sure they would need a variance for that 4.1. That would be because they're not expanding that nonconformity. So if they were to do something up in the front to deny a conforming structure in the front because there's an existing 100-year-old 4.1 on the other side, that would be tricky business. So I'm not saying you have to grant it. I don't vote. I care, but I don't. I'm not a voter. I'm just trying to explain to you the argument that they're making so that you understand it, and that way if you reject it, you reject it on its merits, and understand it. So that's what's going on.
I just have one more angle I want to look at it, and pun is intended. What's the height of the original home?
So if you, you have the architectural plans in front of you, and it'd be better suited for you to look at
The big one,
sheet
yep.
drawing A3.0. And A.30 or A3.0 gives you a perspective of the existing home's building height and then our proposed garage reconstruction. And you'll see that the peak of that house, the existing, is higher than what we're proposing.
Yeah, I can see that on A3. Just wondering what the actual numbers were, this
Right.
angle.
And I think that A3.1 gives you even a better perspective. It's a side view, that view I've been discussing from north to south. So if I'm sitting in what we're calling this access easement and looking down that corridor,
Right.
you'll see that our structure is lower than the original.
And it's within the view corridor of the larger home.
It is.
So it actually blocks the original home blocks more view than the new garage would.
It does, and like I said, and Mr. King, thank you for the clarification. The existing home at the corner of Brooklyn and Beach is 25.1 feet away from the right-of-way line, and our garage with the front open-air porch is 25.5. So we're set back 0.4 feet. That's roughly 4 inches, right? So it's 4 inches behind the existing structure.
This one, John. Whatever.
It's A3, I said that.
Yeah, sheet A3 is what I've referred
A3-1.
to as the silhouette. This is looking at the addition with the existing house behind it. And you can see the addition fits within the existing house. It's not as tall, and it doesn't stick out further towards Brooklyn. And what the point Mr. Cornick is trying to make, and Mr. King touched upon it a little bit, is that we're here to ask for a variance so that we can put that within that silhouette, which requires the rear yard setback variance. We wouldn't even have to be here tonight if we slid this building up towards Brooklyn. But the result of that would be, is that then you would be actually widening the existing building, because this becomes part of the principal building, and you would really be blocking more of the view, looking towards the beach. Yes, it's higher, but you're allowed to go up to a height of 40 feet in this zone. So you could build something that's 40 feet. This is not 40 feet. This is, what was it, Mr. Cornick?
35.5.
35, less than the existing structure, so it doesn't go up any higher than that. Those are all balance factors to justify the variance of putting this structure here.
In the massing of the architecture as well, like I indicated, when my math was off, but the actual structure itself, sans the front porch or the decks, is 23 feet, so that would certainly fit within that criteria of the bulk standard of the rear yard and front yard setback, without the front porch.
Someone mentioned that the porches are being closed. Are they still porches? Like, what is that?
They're open.
They're open air, and they're using the roof line to create that architecture that matches the existing structure.
2 and 3, where would the house, where would it come out to?
So if I took, I believe this is called Haynes 1, that was the exhibit? That's what it was, I identified as? So the existing condition is certainly showing where they have their two-story structure and their front porch. But if I were to take this entire photo of the structure and make it conforming, it would certainly impact that view. And again, my testimony is indicating that we have a better planning alternative, not abiding by the bulk standards, but sliding that structure back so that it's within the existing silhouette of the existing structure.
So, yeah, Mr. Cornick, you're referring to images 2 and 3.
Correct.
That are blue sky open, and if you put that building by right with a 20-foot setback, that would be blocked.
That would be blocked in its
So
entirety.
this homeowner would really wind up with something that she truly doesn't want.
Correct.
Because right now, if it went up, it would just go up, but you'd still have that blue sky.
Still have blue sky.
In photo 2 and 3, if we could just pass that around.
Did we mark a new exhibit?
I believe that was marked.
Haynes 1.
It's not mine.
Still Haynes 1?
Yeah, it
Oh,
wasn't
I thought
mine.
it was a new picture.
It wasn't my exhibit. It's a bear.
They can put their agreement on the record tonight. Yeah, tell them what I said, they're not going to adjourn it, they got to put their agreement on the record tonight, they'll figure it out. Jesus Christmas, how hard can it be?
We do. Okay, thank you.
See this thing here? Yeah, see this thing here? There's this, like they're shooting out here, there's not where this car is. This is what she said, see this thing? This up here. Gotta weigh it, gotta do your thing. It was easy. All right, what's left to do? Is there, Mr. Because we're done?
This is the line.
Okay.
Somehow they changed.
All right, is there any, go ahead, do your thing.
Anyone on the board have any final questions of anyone?
What did you say?
Any final questions of Gentleman here.
I have a question. So if you move it forward, would there still be a variance for non-conforming because of the 4.2 bump out in the back of the main house?
No.
No.
I don't think there would be. I don't think that if they came in and they were simply putting an addition on the home in the front, that they would need a variance for the nonconformity on the side. Judge Serpatelli wrote an opinion on that, and basically, if you are expanding the nonconformity, which they're doing in the back, the part that we're talking about, they're making, I remember I talked about a nonconforming structure becoming made higher. So if you're doing it in the way the nonconformity is, you would need a variance. But if they just came in, suppose they came in for a, suppose they were simply raising that, I don't know, putting an addition in the front. I don't know that house that well, but suppose they were putting adding another foot to the main structure in the rear, assuming that they didn't get within 10 feet of the garage. They wouldn't need, and they complied with lot coverage, eliminated everything else. They were just adding a foot in the back of the house. They wouldn't need a variance for that because they're not exacerbating the nonconformity of the 4.1 on the side. But in this back part.
But I don't see where they're even talking about, I thought the whole nonconformity had to do with the main house with that bump out.
Okay. There is a nonconforming structure. All right, it's a
So
nonconforming
the garage itself is
The
just
whole
not.
house, the whole house is a non-conforming structure. We have about 80% of our houses in Cape May are non-conforming structures in one way or another. We actually have a specific ordinance on this that goes beyond Judge Serpatelli that I'm not even going to go into because it doesn't matter much. Because well, actually, it does matter. I think we've codified Judge Serpatelli. And what we've said is, just because you have a non-conforming structure, meaning in some way it doesn't meet all of the bulk standards, if you are doing an addition that doesn't exacerbate the non-conforming portion, you don't need a variance for that. There's a decision on that, and we have an ordinance that says that. It says some other things too, but it definitely says that. Because everybody in Cape May, not everyone, a lot of these houses, they have rear yards that don't comply. They have, almost every corner lot doesn't comply. So if every time somebody did anything to their house, they had to get a variance, it was cost prohibitive. So we have an ordinance that addresses that. So, but that's not really, I don't want to say it's not relevant, but that's not where your head should be on it.
Well, I guess I can't understand why would they need a variance now, and they wouldn't need a variance if they moved it up.
Okay, because the reason they need a variance now is because they are making it higher in the area where there is already a rear yard setback violation. They're increasing the height within the 25 feet.
Oh, in the
If they
back.
weren't increasing the height within the 25 feet, and they were instead putting an addition against this house, 20 feet from Brooklyn, 25 feet from the rear yard, and whatever the side yard is, 8 feet on where the Cape Rock is, they would not need a variance. They could just make it bigger. And the fact that they're 4.1 over on some other point of the house would not trigger the variance, because they're not changing that part. But that doesn't mean you have to prove it. You don't always have to take the worst-case scenario and then say, oh, well, since this is better than that, we're going to do it. That's not, but it's part of the things you factor in. And you factor in the impact on the neighbors. You factor in their argument that this is a better zoning alternative than putting it somewhere else. And then you decide if this is, on balance, a good thing or a bad thing. If it, well, that's too simple. Whether the benefits they've outlined, and one of the benefits is that it's better than putting it up front, whether the benefits outweigh the detriments, and whether there's a substantial negative impact on the zone plan or zoning ordinance or the neighbors. And you got to weigh all of that and then make a decision. That's what should be in your mind. The 4.1 is not something you should be thinking very much about. It doesn't have anything to do with what we're doing. All right, so I'm just telling you that's the analysis you're doing. And that's what you get the big bucks for. So the motion I recommend, Mr. Ehrlich, you have something to say? Okay. The motion I'd recommend being made.
Wait a minute, are we still, is there still public comment?
I think the public comment is over. I think the applicant.
Well, if they were allowed to talk, I thought there
Oh,
was going
well, sure, no one's going to foreclose it.
Wait a minute, she's not. Wait.
Hold on, oh, ma'am, hold on. I'm going to regain control of this. Since there was additional testimony, you should reopen to the public. In fact, I'm not sure we ever even closed. So if you want to speak on it, on the topic that was, discussed, that's fine. You continue to be.
My name is Karen
Ma'am,
Haynes,
You
again.
continue to be sworn in. State your name and your address.
Karen. Sure. That's okay. I'd like to see that, actually. I've never seen this, so, thank you very much. It's Karen Haynes, Karenhaines, 1520 New Jersey Avenue. Sorry. And I was sworn in previously. I'm just going to want to say that, based upon what they have just said, I'm going to lose my view either way, because of the awnings are still going to take it out, or if you move it up. So, and the height is an issue. That's all.
So are you saying that you're concerned that if this one isn't approved, it could be worse if they move it up, or
It doesn't matter, because the overhangs are still, you've got 3 stories, the overhangs are going to be they're going to take out the green space. So, there's no compromise here, there was no notification to,
Are the overhangs your greatest concern?
Well, first it was the height and the fact that we have 3 stories and my privacy, and we talked about that, right? And then we're leaving it back. The overhangs are of concern.
Is there anything you can do about the overhangs?
Well, you're speaking of the open porch, I believe, right?
Well, I think she's speaking of the roofs. I thought her testimony at one point was that there weren't roofs before, and now there's roofs, and that the roofs are going to impact her. Am I wrong?
Right now, the porches are open slats, so at least you can, but now it's going to be solid.
So basically, the architecture has a hip that probably goes up to, say, 37, 40 inches more or less.
And then-
Exterior gives that architectural feature. And mind you, I'm not an architect, so I'm not super great at this. But if you look at the.
That sounds like it's important to this neighbor, that's
it is.
impacting her more than an open porch would, so maybe you can take a look at that.
That would be great, thank you.
So that particular view corridor, like I said, when you went to sheet A 3.1, and if you look at the top portion of that page, which is the new right side elevation, we have slats
In the book.
on that first floor or first habitable floor. But I believe that the current view is similar in character and size and shape. And I believe that Mrs. Haynes' unit was the first floor, so that's the
But I
concern.
think she's pointing out that seems, that architectural feature seems to block more view than might be required with a different architectural feature.
Go ahead, make sure you're on.
You okay with that?
Yeah.
So we're looking at the plan. There's 2 decks. One's existing.
That has slats.
That's there, it has slats. That's basically being replaced in kind. There's a proposed second deck above that where the art studio is. The applicant's willing to get rid of that second deck, which would eliminate basically the roof over the first deck and just open that area up.
Ma'am, did you hear what they're, ma'am?
Can you show her on this drawing?
Can you show that to her? That's important.
Speaking of eliminating the view.
So this would be,
That is
this deck would be open air.
They've been 2 mistakes in place. On this one, it shows the bottom one being solid and the top one having the ballast. You flip the page, and it gets inverted. Now the bottom one has the ballast, so it's opposite.
Ma'am, I'm not asking you if that makes everything okay, but doesn't that
No.
help?
No, I know, thank you.
Okay.
And there is one other point I'd like to make, because, if you were to move this forward, wouldn't you still have to go to the HPC to have that approved 3rd floor at 40 feet?
The HPC wouldn't approve height, they would decide the demolition.
All right, so it would still, who approved? You
It
still
does
have to
need to
go
go
to
to
HPC, wouldn't still have to have this approved, so it's not a done deal. So I kind of felt like we were getting bullied a little bit here by saying, you know, you got this alternative, so if you don't like this one, we'll give you that one. Let's try to work on this.
I know, but
Try to compromise.
That's fine, but the courts, I just want to point out that technically the courts do talk about a better zoning alternative. That's the analysis to do. So it wasn't like we didn't make up that phrase, that the courts say that you're supposed to examine it for a better zoning alternative. So I just don't want you to think we were.
But
So
I didn't even
can we
get
talk about
notified.
what it is that they're proposing to alter to help,
I
mitigate
understand.
that? What is it we're doing? We're going to eliminate the deck on the second floor?
We can work with the architect, we can eliminate the deck on what would be off the
Third floor, the second deck.
And therefore, it would just be the deck that's currently there. We have to, I know you want that feature taken off in the front, but I have to work with the architect because we got to go back to HPC.
You have to work with HPC
Because it
as
has to
well.
look like it belongs. So we could do the best that we can to keep that deck in line with, as close as it is to what it currently is, and still architecturally look proper for the.
So there'll be no second deck, and you're going to work on the first deck to make it as open as it can be, but with the HPC still liking it. Okay. Does everybody understand that? All right.
And do you really need the third floor? I mean, I'm really asking for my colleagues here, because there's a lot of folks that, it's going to decrease the value of our properties between 15 and 20%, our real estate agents are stating. There's a bunch of.
I think that they've drawn a line on the third floor.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Parker, Cape Rock, 312, 317. As I mentioned earlier, the vertical intrusion, it's going to be a hardship to Cape Rock. It's going to affect our light, our air, our open space, and the property values. So please, we ask you to take this into consideration. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to close to the public.
The motion that I recommend being made, but how you vote is up to you.
A couple remarks on closing, Mr. King?
This is not evidence, but you're free
I
to make a
understand that.
closing
Look,
statement.
but it's just, it's not that the concerns of the unit owners, the Cape Rock, are not important. We understand, I understand, no one likes to lose their view. But when you're building and you're meeting the side yard setback, which is 8 feet, and you're allowed to go up to 40 feet, and we're not, we're going up to 35, the view is going to be blocked. And one of the persons in the public acknowledged that. So you don't own that view, that person can build within that building envelope. So the notion that it's going to harm us, it's going to affect us when you're meeting the side yard setback, that side yard setback's designed to provide the adequate buffer to prevent that. Now, we get to the rear yard setback, and you heard the argument. I think everyone understands that it's the balance. It was considered to pull it forward. No one would really want to have to go through this process if you don't really have to do it, if you don't feel that it's very important. But we're here, and obviously the applicant feels it's important. The architect felt that it was important to better place this addition in line with the existing structure and within the silhouette of the existing structure, and that would be less impactful than an addition that would comply with the ordinance. That's the simple point that we're trying to make, and that's the analysis where it's the benefits outweighs the detriments. And we have to realize, as the woman from the public indicated, that, well, it's going to block some of the view anyway. And you've heard the applicants, they took that concern to heart, and I think they made a pretty big, significant concession here by just foregoing one of the decks, and they're just not going to put it there. And that leaves us with the deck that is pretty much already there in place, and it'll be reconfigured a little bit. So it really boils down to just that. Better zoning alternative, as Mr. King has very articulated very well. We think that it is, and we hope that you see it that way as well and vote favorably. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the motion that I recommend being made, well, let me go through the standards. This is a combination of a C1 and a C2 variance. The C1 relates to the fact that it's a corner lot. I have some issues about corner lots always triggering C1s. If you're in a corner lot, that's what you have. But I think that this is a classic C2 balancing analysis. It's whether or not what they are proposing, given the purposes of zoning and the impact on the neighbors and the zone plan and the zoning ordinance, whether what they are proposing is a better zoning alternative than to a compliant addition that accomplishes the same objectives that they're seeking in terms of adding space and rooms. That's what the C2 balance, that's the fundamental purpose of the C2 balancing standard. The courts have talked about this. They've said, look, there's this standard about positives and negatives and all of this. But what it comes down to is sometimes building not in conformance with the ordinance is better than building in conformance with the ordinance for various reasons. So you have to decide if this is one of those opportunities. You don't have to take that opportunity, but that's the zoning analysis you're doing. Is deviating from the rules that are in the books better than compliant? Because sometimes that happens, and they think that this is one of those times, but obviously the neighbors don't. The neighbors believe that this is too great an impact on them, because no matter what analysis you do in terms of balancing, it includes an analysis of the negative impact on the neighbors. And you have to think about the negative impact on the neighbors, but part of that is, could it be worse for the neighbors? Now, they've tried to mitigate the impact of the neighbors by eliminating the second floor deck, so now it's the same deck that was there before. I know it's slightly higher and all the other changes, but now there's one deck instead of two, which was a concession they made, and they're also going to look at the first floor deck and see if there's architectural features can be done in a way that is more transparent, or whatever the right word is, less opaque, whatever the term is. Okay? So the motion I recommend being made is a motion to grant the variances. I think it's a variance, which is because the lot coverage has been reduced to 45, the side yard is now 8, which conforms, and the variance they're seeking is for the increased height in the rear yard, where 25 is required, and they will be at 9 feet. Those variances are subject to the conditions outlined by the board engineer, as well as the description of the change in the architecture that I just described. I just want to review my notes. It's been a long meeting. That was it? Okay. I said subject to his conditions. So that's the motion that I recommend being made, but how you vote is up to you. It's made in the affirmative. It's always made, so everyone understands, we make the motion in the affirmative. We always make the motion to grant. That way, yes is approved, and no, it means it's not approved, so that it's clear, so we don't make a mistake when we're voting. So we always vote to grant. We always move to grant. I think people can vote yes or no. This one, should also mention that they are eliminating a non-conforming use by taking the separate living unit and putting it into the principal unit, and that eliminates a non-conforming use, which is a purpose of zoning. I should mention that. I got scared thinking about it was 5-7, but it's not. It's a simple majority because they're eliminating the non-conforming use. So this is a vote of a simple majority for a C2 variance. Okay? So how you vote is up to you. That's the motion I recommend being made.
Okay, can someone please make that motion?
Motion.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, Mr. Zexer motions. Mr. Venuto seconds. Ms. Sheehan?
No, because I think it's a negative impact on the neighbor's quality of life.
Mrs. Notch?
No, because of the neighbor's impact.
Ms. Hessel?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer?
Yes.
Mr. Cataldo?
Yes, I think the new part of the existing structure, we'll call it that, is within the sightlines, within the shadow of the original structure. However, I have concerns about the HPC consciously addressing the demolition of the existing structure. So I want that to be consciously addressed, whether it's a demolition or a renovation.
Yes, and I will interrupt briefly to say that when I said the conditions of approval are included, I include among those the requirement for HPC approval. Okay?
Mr. Venuto?
I have concerns, just like the neighbors do. And if I were in their place, I would certainly be concerned as well, but I'm going to vote yes because I think the owners have every right to put the addition on their house and they comply with the variances.
Mrs. Werner?
I'm voting yes, and I do have the same types of concerns as the neighbors, but I think the fact that you're trying to keep it in line so that you're not exacerbating their lack of view, and that you're willing to take off the one outside structure. So, yes.
Okay, it's a vote of 5-2. Thank you.
Madam Chairman, board members, thank you for your time.
Good decision.
It's, you can see what just
You have to be considerate of your neighbors, or that's the truth.
I just lost every single view I had in my house. It looks like I have a stockade in front of me now.
Unfortunately,
But they are allowed to build their house.
I have neighbors who are not very considerate.
The house on Congress Street.
Oh, that big,
They,
beautiful
they,
gray one, the gray and black one?
yeah, not that one there. They moved the little Sears and Roebuck house that was there to the center of the lot, and then they built a huge structure.
That's what happens when you live there. So the question was asked, walk off the page and not you don't own your view.
Oops. Oh, be careful.
Does happen.
Good evening.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm hoping I'm bringing very, very good news. It seems like it's been a very long night. Those look like two very complicated applications. You might have seen Mr. Feinberg and our clients going back and forth outside during that first application. This was obviously an appeal to the zoning board from a decision of the HPC, Mr. Feinberg's client. We are very, very close to a settlement. We would say we're about 99% there. So we're requesting essentially an adjournment of this matter in order to finalize those details, get this matter settled, and hopefully not have to come back at all.
Why can't you finalize it tonight? I mean, we've adjourned this thing like 3 times.
We have.
It's a retaining wall.
We're about 99% there. It's really just a matter of writing up the agreement, making sure that everything is ironed out. And my client simply wants to take a look at some of the materials that they're going to be agreeing to pursuant to this, make sure everything's buttoned up, pricing is what they anticipate it to be. It's really just for more investigative purposes than anything.
And I
we
don't-
do anticipate that this will resolve.
I also add, and I'm in agreement, that if we proceeded tonight, this is a lengthy, it may be a simple issue, but it's a lengthy matter. And since we're this close, it seems the best economy of time would be to finish up that 1%.
All right, you guys had a month to talk about this retaining wall. I've read this stuff 3 times to prepare for this. So either you get it together by the next meeting, or I don't think they should adjourn it again. You guys had a month to talk about it. So, I mean, solve this problem. You got to dedicate some time and effort and solve it, okay?
You should.
It seems like it's something you should have been able to work out before you sat here for 3 hours. I read all this stuff again. You know what I mean? Like, talk to each other in advance and try to get it done, okay?
We anticipate that we won't be there. But if we are back next time, we'll go forward.
It's a go.
Fair enough.
Okay.
No complaints.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you all
Can I
very
make
much.
a comment? Can I make?
Yeah, go ahead, vote. Maybe they'll say no.
Can I make a comment before that about this retaining wall? You know, I know there's a problem about all the construction materials, but also the height of that containing wall is the same height as a chair, and there's a lot of people who are sitting on it. So now are we making more seating available other than the chairs and what they're actually allowed to have? Because people are using it, you know, by tables. So now we have extra people out there, and it's been noticed by a lot of the Cape May residents driving by.
Understood.
So I don't know if the height could be lowered or higher so that it's not at seat level.
Well, but how much lower or higher would you have to make it so you can't sit on it?
I don't
know
know,
that
but they're
physics.
sitting on it so that they're equal to tables. So, you know, my feeling is, are they having more people there on the property than that they are supposed to be licensed for? And so
I don't know the answer. to that.
that's being questioned by a lot of people.
I don't anticipate that that is the case, but of course.
Okay.
Okay, guys, let's solve this
so-
problem, please.
Are they doing a motion? I don't know.
We're going
We're going to do a motion, guys, do a motion, sorry.
We're going to do a motion to allow them to try to work things out, and if not, come back here in June. If we can't resolve it in June, then
July.
July, sorry. Then,
There's only 1% of negotiations left, apparently. How hard can that be?
okay, all right. So can we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Mrs. Notch motions, Ms. Hessel seconds. Ms. Hessel? Ms. Hessel, yes? Yes, thank you. Mrs. Notch?
Yes.
Ms. Sheehan?
Yes.
Mr. Zexer? Mr. Zexer?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Cataldo?
Yes.
Mr. Venuto?
Yes.
Mrs. Werner?
Yes.
Thank you.
I yelled at you guys so they would say yes, because believe me, there were some no's on this board before.
Because, you know,
Okay.
like you said, Rich, I read it.
Not good at all.
Mary?
We have a motion to adjourn.
Sorry, but
Yes, do we have a
Make a
motion to
motion.
adjourn? Thank you, Stacy. All in favor?
I'll have to go.
Ms. Sheehan, thank you. Good night. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
I didn't realize there was the opposition. I'm giving Gil's